Yeah, I wasn't sure. This is no color ID. Sometimes that's
all your time.
Morning, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Humboldt County Commissioners, Monday, March 7th, 2022. It's 8:31 in the morning. First order of business is if you could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next order of business is public comment. Anybody has public comment? General public comment is designated for discussion only. Public has the opportunity to address the commission on any matter not appearing on this agenda. Do we have public comment? Not seeing any public comment. We're going to move on to the approval of the minutes. We have one set of minutes. That would be for February 22nd, 2022. Everybody have a chance to take a look at those. Any additions, subtractions, corrections? A motion?
I have some comments on it, Jim, I believe. On page 7, ARJ Properties came in to see us, and then AJR Properties was here. But to approve RH 2121 as own, it was done by ARJ Properties. Where you put the
Oh,
top.
I see. It's transposed.
Yeah, and then you've got an AJR on there. That might be important for somebody looking at these down the road.
I agree.
Catch.
So,
I'll correct that.
okay. So we have a motion then with the corrections as noted by Commissioner Haas?
Commissioner Haas's motion.
Yes. Commissioner Haas, would that be your motion?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Any additional discussion on that motion?
I just have a little discussion on it that I will not be participating in any of the items that were done before 9:17 a.m. on that morning.
Okay. Any additional comments on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to item 5, which is the expenditures, February 22nd, 2022 through March 7th, 2022. Everybody had a chance to review those expenditures? We have a motion?
Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the expenditures for Humboldt County for the period of February 22nd, 2022 through March 7th, 2022 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? Additions, subtractions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Okay, we'll move to item 6, which is the Comptroller's financial report. And Humboldt County Comptroller Gina Rackley will provide an overview of current conditions with respect to Humboldt County revenues and expenditures for fiscal 2022 from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, including possible impacts of the COVID-19 response to the county and an update on the American Recovery Act. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Gina Rackley, Comptroller for the purposes of the record. So we did receive December CTX. I was very curious to see how it was going to play out. And we are once again down. We're down 11.5%, but we've got some pretty big ticket areas that are down in millions per item. Mining, utilities, specialty trade contractors. I mean, we're talking down 25%, 40%. All manufacturing areas down anywhere between 28 and 39%. So I don't know if that's end of the calendar year type activities. I don't know if the storm impacted that, but those are big dollar areas that were down. More on a local level, motor vehicle parts and dealers were up, gas stations were up, general merchandise stores were up, rental and leasing services were really up 395%. But then in the non-store retailers, I'm going to call them flat. They were down about 4%, but I mean, not significant. So that's not bad. And food services and drinking places, they were up 20%. So on a local level, I think we did fine. It's just those big areas in mining, utilities, and manufacturing that took large reductions for the month of December. So what does that mean to the general fund? So year to date, that's 6 months, that's July through December, CTX, we are down $97,471.52 compared to the previous fiscal year. Now, last fiscal year was a really good fiscal year, but this is bringing us pretty much in line with where we were a couple of years ago, or even before that. So just wanted to update you on that. ARPA funds, we completed our first project, the Denio Community Hall bathrooms. Upgrades have been done. Those were the, like touchless sinks and toilets and those types of things. So our first project is done and completed. So moving on. And that's all I have. If you have any questions.
Any questions for Gina?
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 7 then. It's approval of a letter of support to comment to ComNet Wireless LLC's USDA Reconnect grant application. This is a consideration, discussion, possible approval of a letter of support for ComNet Wireless LLC's Reconnect grant application for funding under the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA. The Reconnect Loan Grant Program furnishes grants to provide funds for the cost of construction, improvement, or acquisition of facilities and equipment needed to provide broadband service in eligible rural areas. Awarding of the grant will facilitate broadband deployment of areas of rural Humboldt County that currently do not have sufficient access to broadband. Morning.
Good morning. How are you? For the record, my name is JoJo Myers Campos, and I'm the director for Nevada for ComNet.
Okay.
We are applying for the USDA Reconnect grant for Northern Humboldt. In fact, that will be submitted as soon as we get your support letter. Hopefully, that will actually be submitted tomorrow. The deadline is on Wednesday for that. I did send in on Friday, it may have been a little late, a visual for y'all, so you can actually see the areas that we're going to go.
Trying to get there, Jojo, just so you know.
Oh, okay.
Hang on one second.
I'll just keep talking until you get there. There we go.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. And so the Reconnect is hard to get. There's actually only been one provider in the state to ever get the Reconnect, and that was Beehive. And that was up in Elko. That's how Montello actually got connectivity up there. Corporations can go for it, tribes can go for it. The Pyramid Lake Tribe, they've gone for it 3 years in a row and have been denied. So we actually hired a third party that had actually experience in the Reconnect, that actually, we ran different scoring matrix to see which areas of the state would score highest. And Northern Humboldt, as well as some of the Round Mountain Carvers area, also really looked good. I was actually going to go for both of those, and the original actually Reconnect grant, the letter I did send Dave and Abel. It had both of those areas, but when I got to thinking about it, it would actually make more impact, make more sense if I just concentrate on all of the areas that's going to be in Humboldt. Do you want to go to the next?
Keep going?
Yep, keep going.
Okay.
Go to the one that shows the green line.
It's up, but for some reason it's delayed here. Come on, baby.
Need a reconnect.
Would it help if you hit enable editing?
We need better internet. Let's see if I can just go right to it from here.
There it is. Those are the areas I'm going to be going for, actually. It's going to be from McDermott down to Winnemucca. This is going to be originate and terminate. It's also going to be Denio down to Winnemucca. We are also, you can see also what we're going to do with Paradise Valley. Originally, when I was looking at this and I was going to take in the location of Austin down to Tonopah, which I am no longer, I was looking at the Paradise Valley area as a fixed wireless. It is not going to be a fixed wireless. I'm actually going to be bringing fiber there and doing the fiber to the home. For Paradise Valley. The total build of this is between 23 and 24 million. My cap is 25. So I got in right up underneath that. And we stand a really good chance. We scored very high in this area in the scoring matrix. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I see in the middle of, between Denio and McDermott, there's a community of Kings River. You see those pivots in there?
Yes, sir.
Why was it?
Oh, no, all of those are Orovada, Kings, all of those, Paradise Valley. It's just some are going to be easier to get to fiber. The others are going to be a fixed wireless solution. Every community from Denio down to Winnemucca, every community, which is more on the other side from McDermott down to Winnemucca, all of those will be looked at for connectivity. It's not just a middle mile. This is all last mile impact, but Paradise Valley will be fiber to the home, while the other ones will be looked as a fixed wireless. Yes, sir,
So
all
just
of
because
those.
it's not green like the others? doesn't
Yes, sir,
mean-
that's our middle mile fiber path that you're seeing there. It will start and originate and it will terminate. That's actually all fiber that you will see coming in as far as that. But the fiber to the home, fiber again, you'll see that little offshoot of fiber to Paradise Valley. That's fiber as well. But oh, no. All of Northern Humboldt will have solution.
Okay, great.
For that. It's in a bad way. We all know that. Denial, and this will actually, like Denial can now go to like fiber to the library. This is all assets that you're going to be seeing here. But there's another reason I wanted to go for this grant for Northern Humboldt. Can you go to the next?
I'll let you know in a moment.
So I'll just key up the next one. We have CAF opportunities and commitments. Okay, well, let's do this one. This one actually, see all the blue stars right there? Okay, well, no, we'll take this one. I'm seeing something different here. On CAF,
Yeah, I'm trying to.
we have, as a company, this is Connect America 2 funding. This is a reverse auction that only providers can participate in. So when we participated in this here a year ago, we want everything you see in tan are all of our CAF commitments that we're going to do as a company anyway. So we have actually households, we have right at 1,700 households that we will connect, as well as we have $2.4 million that we will have to be, and these are our commitments. This is nothing for the county or anything. This is what we agreed to do. Then if you want to go to the next one, this one here is something else. We filed this on Friday. We filed for the Humboldt Conservation Camp with NDOC to also get some connectivity there as well. We also have FirstNet sites. We have a really large contract with AT&T to build and operate the FirstNet sites here in Nevada. There are 10 FirstNet sites between Winnemucca and Denio and McDermott, 10 FirstNet sites. Now what that means is if the FirstNet site is strictly safety, no, we can't use it. However, because we can build and operate all of these sites, we actually then have additional carrier opportunities. So what that means is we then have the contracts with T-Mobile, we have the contracts with, we actually now have the contract with Dish, and we have the contract with Verizon for them to hang equipment up on all of these towers to bring you a better mobile experience. As you know, in most of the state, like if I am in Ely, I better have AT&T because T-Mo and Verizon. Now, if I'm in Duck Valley, the only thing that's going to work up there is going to be Verizon. With the carrier opportunities and them all taking advantage of putting the equipment on all of these towers, it's not going to matter if you have T-Mobile or Verizon or AT&T, you'll start having a better experience over the next 24 months. So we really we stand a really good chance that this grant will be the second provider to ever get it in the state, but it will really, really benefit. This will be 1,200 plus homes that we'll be able to reach with connectivity just in Northern Humboldt. What questions do you have for me?
Any additional questions? Do we have a letter, in the packet?
Yes.
Yep. Everybody had a chance to review the letter. How about a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the letter of support for ComNet Wireless LLC, USDA Reconnect Grant application.
Hey, we have a motion on the floor. Any additional discussion on that motion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
I hope you get it done.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Y'all keep your fingers crossed.
Dave will be in a position then for my signature today on that letter?
Yes.
Okay, so she'll
That
have,
would be great.
have it in time.
I'll send it off tomorrow. Thank you.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 8, request to approve Michael Clay Corporation for the Michael Clay Corporation Agreement. It was consideration, discussion, possible approval of an agreement between Michael Clay Corporation and Humboldt County to provide construction management services as the county's owner representative for building and infrastructure projects in the amount not to exceed $150,000 over a 3-year period. Okay, open this up. Everybody had a chance to take a look at those, the staff report and that contract.
Couldn't pull up the Michael Clay Corporation PDF.
Hang on one
I
second.
was able to pull the first one, the staff report up, but I couldn't find
Yeah, I had the same problem.
Michael Clay. Do you
Let's
have
see.
a copy of a current contract with him?
I don't know if I have the current right in front of me. Let's open up this link though. And that opened up, so I will share that with you. Let's make it a little larger. So, Mr. Chair, Dave Mendiola for the record. We currently have a contract with Mr. Shepherd, and we signed that in 2019. It was a 2-year contract. It was also for $150,000, not to exceed 150. We've only spent about 33,000 of that in that time period, so we haven't done a lot of work with him. Primarily, his focus has been on the public safety communications effort, Winnemucca Mountain, Rose Creek, and sports complex towers that have gone up. More recently with McDermott, he's done some work with us up at Eagle Creek and starting to prepare that site as well as Double H. So, and then of course, he's currently involved with our renovation of the court systems. And matter of fact, we had a meeting on Thursday, I think it was, with the CTA, the architects, says they're moving forward with that design work. So this particular agreement was done primarily because they've run out of time on the 2019 agreement. And so what we've done is come back, same $150,000, not to exceed. We do not expect him to go anywhere near that. And again, it's a 3-year contract in this particular case. And I did the 3-year primarily because I think that's how long it's going to take for us to get the court renovations, if we do go forward with the buildings and grounds building, as well as some of the other smaller ones that you'll see during the budget hearings. So that's what this is for. Again, he ran out of time, hadn't spent a lot of the money on the original contract.
Okay, commissioners, you have any questions? I realize that you hadn't had a chance to take a look at this contract in detail. Do you have an interest in moving forward with this one today, or should we table it with the intent of reviewing this contract, or do you think it's straightforward enough to where we can do something with it today? I'm just asking.
This Commissioner Hill, I'm comfortable with it. I think it's an invaluable position for us to have Mr. Shepherd on this board. You know, there's a lot of things that can go wrong with contractors and contracts and stuff. And I think it's great to have him here to keep watch over our projects and stuff and bring us information that we can understand as we move forward. So I think it's money well spent.
Okay. Any additional comments?
There is no changes from the original contract?
There's a few changes, but primarily it was just to get in line with some of our new requests. For example, he has to report on every invoice, how much the current invoice is for, what's the total on the contract, how much is still left on the contract. So we're requiring that of all vendors, have been for a couple of years. But so as we renew these, we're just putting that new information in. Yeah, in addition to that, we've also added a little broader scope. Because the last one was primarily focused on the public safety communication project. So we've branched this out to be specific to the court renovations and the ones that we currently have that we know about. And then there's also some language in there that says, you know, if there's additional work, then we will consider that and have a discussion about it before we actually engage him.
So this has been approved by the DA. He's taken a look at it.
Yes.
Wendy,
I have looked
you're
at
good with it? Okay. Okay. And we have a motion then?
Yeah, I'm prepared to make a motion. Ready? Motion to approve a professional service agreement with Michael Clay Corporation in an amount not to exceed $150,000 for 3 years.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any additional discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hey,
Let-
simply because I want to read the contract,
Gotcha.
you know.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Haas voted nay. All right. Item 9, petition to remove parcel plan, parcel APN 04040202 Paradise Valley from Treasurer's auction list and acquire for public purpose. Consideration, discussion, possible approval to remove parcel APN 04-0402-02 located in Paradise Valley, Nevada from Humboldt County Treasurer's delinquent tax list, auctions list, to approve county manager's application for the county to acquire said parcel for the public purpose and direct Humboldt County Treasurers to give notice of intent to sell pursuant to NRS 361.603. This property sits adjacent to another county property that is originally deeded to the county to be used as a recreational area. If the commission were to approve to remove this parcel, this would allow the county to expand the area and to allow a right-of-way for a resident who would allow the county to expand the area, and to allow a right-of-way for a resident who currently has access to their property. I think Dan Castanelli had wanted to address the board on that as well. Come on up, Dan. Welcome. Nice to see you.
Morning.
Yeah. Well, one of my questions is why is it on the delinquent taxes list? Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but when I was a commissioner, sometime during my term back before John Milton went off, maybe one of his last years, this land sat kind of in limbo for years and years. At that meeting, I believe we made a motion or whatever we did, we put it under the county ownership. So you guys already own the land. It's 27 acres. It sits right below the old fish pond or the recreation area there, if you're familiar with that. The land that, the lot that, the only lot that I know that's owned by a person was one we sold, my dad sold. And it already has a right-of-way, or it should have a right-of-way into that little corner lot there. And that right-of-way, it should be under my dad and mom's name, or my dad got that right-of-way so that we could sell that corner lot. So I'm a little confused why you're doing this. This was taken from the ranch long before we moved there, but in 1887, Sam Pierce sold it, I guess, to that mining company. And then somewhere during maybe the 1900s, it went broke. And back in the 70s, my dad tried to get it back, and we couldn't get it get it. And later on, we did it again and we didn't get it. And it's out of the last 40 acres of our ranch up there to the north. And actually, if it should go to anybody, I feel it should come back to me because it's my head gate is at the north boundary line of this. So this piece of ground is, nobody does anything with it. It's vacant, but there's a little road that goes through it that I and the water commissioner used to get up to that head gate to adjust it. And so I don't know. That's my
Mr.
thought.
Chair, so I would just ask Rona can provide the background on what we do as far as this process. So.
Good morning, Rona Leckenberry, Humboldt County Treasurer. So this parcel came up because the people who live there they wanted to improve their access, and we couldn't find any record of any easement or anything, I believe. They went through the county manager and everyone. So in the research that we found on this parcel, it was taken for taxes from, I can't find the name, but it was taken for like $21.24 back in like 1967. It was taken for taxes. And so it's been under Humboldt County Treasurer Trustee ever since then, which those are the parcels that are designated to be sold by the treasurer. I believe at that time, the county did intend to keep it for public purpose, but that documentation was never done. So no deed was ever recorded from the treasurer trustee to the county or to anybody, and the parcel didn't go to auction at that time. So it got changed to an exempt parcel because the county intended to take it then, and the paperwork wasn't ever done. So it didn't come up in subsequent sales because once it was marked as exempt, it wasn't generating any more taxes. So that's what we found when we did the research for it. That was all that we had. But
So Dave, help me out with this. So why did this come to the table now? Is we have another proposal on the table right now?
Right.
I mean, obviously this has been pending for back and forth for a long time.
Yeah, so my history with this is when I came into being the county manager, it wasn't more than 6 months after I was hired. A young lady, well, actually, I met with Mr. Saginski. I think he was the owner of the property at the time. He and his wife, I think, have both passed now, or at least he has. And then
The wife's alive.
She might still be
She
alive.
lives
Yeah,
here in town.
yeah. So, but I think they sold the property to a young couple who then subsequently, originally when Mr. Saginski came, he wanted the same thing. He just wanted to either buy the parcel because he also saw it. He looked at it and thought it was a county-owned property. And of course, we looked at it and we had nothing in our recordings that was ever deeded to the county. It was just part of our trust from tax delinquency. So, so nothing really happened with that. And then a young couple bought the property from Saginski
on the agenda, the Sacramento thing.
about a year ago or year. And same thing when we found out the status of the property, it had to go through the delinquency process, which essentially provides them with 3 or more years to collect. Even after something like this, they still have, I believe it's 90 days if the previous owners have 90 days to collect on that. If in fact there's any, or we can't find anybody. We have made an effort to do that. So that's why it came to my attention.
and we did do a preliminary title report on it when we did the rest of our auction properties, and it didn't identify anybody. So we'll have to go back, and that's why we're having you notice. We'll have to go back and try to find heirs and devisees and all of that. And then they'll have 90 days to respond to that as well. If there are no responses, then I believe.
Well, good luck, because I've lived there for 57 years.
Yeah.
And it was done in 1887. As far as I know, nobody there, I don't know how would you ever find the owners? And somewheres, I don't know, apparently it didn't get done as a commissioner, but I know, I said at this meeting, and we voted to put that back into the county. And it's in one of those meetings, and I don't remember, damn if I can remember what year, I never will remember it. But it should have been over to county land. But for all those years that I lived there and before that, it was under I suppose, well, I don't know what. Maybe it was under our control. It's
No,
always been
just-
fenced
it was
and
on
we've always
trustee.
drove through it.
It was under the trustees,
I guess.
Since 1967.
67.
Prior to
About
that,
before that.
it was taken for taxes in 1967. Do you have the name, Wendy?
In 1967?
The previous owner,
I have
trying to find it in the paperwork. It escapes me.
I don't think you can.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is there a reason why we can't hold that from the auction anyway and bring this back at another meeting and give them time to research through it?
Well, I'm just wondering that myself right now. There seems to be enough question there, and I've got a number of questions I was still going to ask. So I think we should hold this out from auction personally, and I think we should revisit this so all parties have an opportunity to present what they're.
I don't know, you got a couple of other people from Paradise. Are you here for this purpose too?
Yeah, we are.
Come.
We didn't understand how it was presented on the agenda. It made no sense because I thought you would ask for funding. There was nothing that said anything about clear title.
Do you want to come up?
Ma'am, can you come up? So we need to get you on the record. Thanks.
Oh, I'd love to hear you. Could you state your name for the record so the.
You bet. Glenda, Deputy Paradise Valley. When I saw it on the agenda, I had questions because it wasn't clear, I didn't feel, as to what you guys were intending. And when we looked at things, it belongs to the county already, it looked like to me.
Yeah.
And so, you were just looking for clear title is what I was. And, when we all bought those pieces of property up there, they did come with whatever we needed to access them.
Yeah, ultimately, I think, but in my view, and in looking at the manager's report back to us on it, I think the question we had in mind was whether or not we're going to take this to auction or whether we're going to hold it. And I think ultimately, from what I'm hearing right now, we need to hold that piece of property for right
Yes.
now and
Yes.
pull it from the
I
auction.
think I'm truly right, Paradise Valley. That was what we looked at. It does sit up there in a recreational area on Martin Creek, and I think most of the people that we talked to would rather that the county just hold it for access to that recreational area and not sell it. If it was sold, if you were to decide to sell it, I do think it should go back to the mill ranch because it's part of the historic mill ranch. But you guys set a precedent by doing that with selling the firehouse in Paradise Valley back to the owner of the property that it originally was. So I do think there is a precedent there for that.
Sure.
Dave, so if, I'm not clearly understanding this agenda item either. So if we were to get title to it, we were going to sell this to
No.
this person?
Let
No.
me see if I can
Not at
help.
all.
Can I step in for a second? Wendy Maddox. So the property, Deputy DA, the property is currently held in the treasurer's name since it was for taxes that weren't paid. Essentially, there's a statute that allows, and it sounds like from Mr. Casanelli that this maybe was something that was done before, but the following steps weren't followed through with to actually acquire it and deed it to the county. So the item is before you, and essentially it would be if the county wants this property for a public purpose, there is public property right above it, is my understanding, that is recreational. So the intent would be to expand this area to make it one recreation area for public purpose. If the county, if you want to do that, then that would require that the property be acquired by Humboldt County, not by the treasurer, but by Humboldt County for public purpose. And then there's another process that we need to follow, which would involve giving notice of intent to sell. That sounds funny, but it's that we're going to acquire it. But just the language in statute is notice of intent to sell, meaning that we're not going to give it to anybody else. It's not going to go on the auction list, but it's essentially sold to us, to the county. And there's still a process that we have to give notice to the last known owner, heirs, or devisees. And if that person comes forward and says, this is my property, I owned it, and I want to pay the taxes, they can do that.
Good, you
At
just
that time.
explained what we were all wondering.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
That's what, when we looked at it, because we do keep an eye on.
It's just the
things
way
going
it-
out there.
yeah.
We just didn't understand it.
It's just the way it's worded in statute. And it sounds funny, but it's notice of intent to sell is the word in statute.
So, as you all know that area, you know that the property, recreation property above that has been, I don't want to use the word destroyed, but, you know, abandoned and
Yeah.
changed because the county did not want to be responsible for anything that happened there. So, you know, in that respect, I don't think you're looking at wanting to be responsible for that little piece either.
We have
But-
our 4-Hers go clean it up.
You know, that, and like Trula was saying about a precedent going back to the original.
I think certainly
You know.
from a standpoint of the action in front of us today, I think I'm clear on what we need to do here today. From a standpoint of the county's involvement with maintenance of some of those public purpose properties, I agree with you. And that was a conversation we were going to have before I come off the commission, because I think we could probably pick our favorite spot, some of them out in Paradise Valley that have not been well maintained by the county. So in my view, if we're going to take something on, and we're going to take that property off the rolls and we're going to take it on, we need to take it on. And we need to provide that for public purpose, provide for that. But that's just me.
Yeah, and then one other thing that this brought to, I think, to our attention is that Dan says that that person should have a right of way already when he bought that property. He should have received, or he or she or they should have received a right of way at that time. I don't know how. There should be a way of finding that out.
Yeah, I can go to Desert Mountain. They still have that. I couldn't find it at home when I looked through it, but there should be one.
And then I think another thing that should be considered is Dan uses that a road through that property and the ranch has forever to access his water diversion. And that needs to be accounted for. However this goes, there should be some type of right of way or easement for him to continue to use that with no problem.
Agreed. I think those things change over time, and he should never be left out in the cold on that.
I also have a letter that Bill wrote to my dad from December 29, 1970, a letter here. You guys are gay. Go through that, maybe get a hold of Bill.
Okay,
Way back.
we can do that. Yeah, that was the, okay.
Property was sold or whatever happened to it.
Hey, Glenda, would you put that mic over in front of you? Yeah, thank you.
People will always be able to, the Martin Creek Road runs right up there, so you're always going to be able to access the county property that the county owns already. So there's no way that it'll ever not have access to that piece of property. And then I think I know what the people that live there are. So the road goes through it. If you're looking at the map, everything on the west side and the little corner in red is their property. If I don't care if I was to get anything back, I have no interest in anything on the west side of that road. So those people are, however, if it could ever be worked or we bought or whatever, they can have that. The only other thing on that side, I just talked to Bobby Buckingham on the way in, they have a ditch that runs from the dam up here all the way through that. And I'm assuming they'll always have access, but they need to be able to clean that ditch and maintain it. And it does it on we haven't had a good year for a long time now, but we get a lot of water that can be pretty swampy in that one area there. So.
I think it's pretty clear that, the action today that to remove this from the treasurer's delinquent taxes auction list is appropriate. And I think we need to get this back on an agenda so that we can actually decide as a crew that what we're going to do with it in terms of how we're going to administer the land or whether the county's going to step up for it. And if there's cause for us to do that or whether there's cause to, and I have to agree that if it was part of the mill ranch before, I think if we decide that we're not going to put it for public purpose, then it should go back to the mill ranch. But that's just me speaking again, but,
That's kind of how our.
I have a comment, Mr.
Go
Chair. This is Commissioner Hill. I agree. I think if it, does go down to that, I think I would not be opposed to it going back to the mill ranch. My only concern would be that we clearly define the right of way before
Right.
that happens so that there is always public access up to that canyon. I wouldn't be in favor of it going out to just anybody. I think it belongs probably in that ranch or to the county, but if it stays in the county, then we need to define a clear right of way for Dan to access his water diversion. So it might make more sense for part of that to go back to him, and then we create an easement or a right of way for public to make sure they can always get up through that canyon.
yeah, I think that's the question. Yeah.
And, it's much more complicated than that. There are probably at least 3 people that need a right of way through there. Mr. Castanelli, the property owner, and there's people that need an easement or right of way for that, for ditch maintenance for their irrigation as well. All those people will need some clarification on whether they have, on their easements, right of ways or whatever, and always be able to access those.
Right. So basically the public purpose question for the
Kinda.
county would probably take care of those.
Yeah.
needs. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I think for today, I think what we need to do, I think it's pretty clear that we need to take an action. This is just me speaking here, and I'm looking for a motion, I guess, but we need to take an action on treasurer's delinquent tax auction list and approve the county manager's application for the county, or at least to remove that property from the treasurer's auction list.
Wendy Maddox, Deputy DA, if I could just state one thing as I hear the discussions going on. I just want to make sure that you understand that the action item before you today is essentially not for you to take the property as trustee and decide who you're going to give it to. The options are under 603. It's either going to be yours for the public purpose, or you're going to leave it on the auction list, and then it's going to go to auction, and whoever bids on the property is going to bid on the property. But if you do acquire it for public purpose, you can, of course, clear up issues in the past that you need to with right-of-ways, easements, all of those sort of thing. I do understand that there's some other property owners, the Neffs, that may need some kind of right-of-way or easement as well. So
So the
Just wanted-
question of public purpose question needs to be addressed in our motion.
it does. If you're going to say it's for Humboldt County and we want to do something for it, yes.
Okay.
And then we can start that process of giving notice to the last known owner, and they can start the opportunity to redeem it within 90 days.
Yeah, and once we have it in public purpose, then with the conversation we're having right here, we can actually address that, so.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody want to take a stab at that one?
I was going to, but it got awful complicated at the end.
Uh,
I have one question, Wendy. Do we have to, since so much time has passed, do we have to post it back out for the original owners? I mean, like you were saying, it's been.
We do. I know it sounds interesting, but essentially after you all make the decision, yes, this is going to be for public purpose, then we have to follow that next step. And we have to give notice again to somebody and allow them the opportunity to redeem the property within 90 days. And I can show you 603, but it says the last known owner may within 90 days after the notice redeem the property by paying the treasurer the amount of the delinquent taxes plus penalties, interest, and costs.
So basically, what I'm foreseeing right now that we could probably incorporate in a motion here would be approval to remove parcel APN 04-0402-02 located in Paradise Valley, Nevada from Humboldt County Treasurer's delinquent tax auction list, and to approve the county manager's application for the county to acquire said parcel for public purpose. Correct?
Yes.
So move.
Okay.
So
We have a move. Oh, we have a motion?
Yes.
Any more discussion on the motion?
Sounds good.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thanks for coming in, you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for being able to clear that up. because it was very confusing.
It
Thank
is.
you for
It was for
coming.
us too, so.
I didn't catch this, these guys did. But could I get like a, if I leave my email at the office, could you email me when when this comes up?
Yes,
Because I didn't know anything about it. And that's, my ranch is right here and this is the property.
Yeah.
So,
And I think really this was more clearing up that paperwork issue that never got cleared up before. Never
Yeah,
When
this
you
is-
guys went to take it, but
Dan, did you have any additional questions you wanted us to clear up or try to?
I'll leave this letter with you guys, Dave. When you read through, you're gonna read.
Yep.
He'll go with you because it's not that easy to get it back.
Do you want a copy of
Yeah,
that?
that
So
sounds good.
you can keep that original?
Yeah.
I would say yes.
Yeah, we should do that.
It looks like it was printed on 1870 paper. So.
Yeah,
You might want to hang on to that.
there's an aspen tree
That
up
might,
there
that
without
might
any
be a
bark
legal
on it, so.
document.
Yeah.
it's your email. Me too.
Rona, as long as you're there, we can go to item 10, huh?
Sure.
Item, while we're trying to clear this up, and maybe we need to wait a few minutes for a good item here for Dan.
Thank you, sir. Good to see
Get
you.
out of your
Ben,
way.
I'm not running you off. If you need
I'll
more
get out of
time.
your way. Thank you, guys. We'll see you later.
Thank you, Dan.
Hey, Dan, hang on 1 second. She's making copies. So I'll give that back to you. We'll bring it to you.
All right. Kind of move to item 10, Treasurer's Resolution to sell delinquent tax properties at auction and a request to enter an agreement with Morton. This is for Morton
Morton Asset Management.
for possible action. I'm going to leave it to you.
Okay. Good morning, Rona Leckenberry, Humboldt County Treasurer. The first item in front of you is the resolution for sale of the property that we have on our list currently to go to auction on April 22nd, 2022. That auction will be held here in the courthouse at 10 a.m. in this room. We are going back to a live auction this year. And then it's directing me to make sure that I post in 3 public places, including one at the courthouse, the Humboldt County Library, Winnemucca City Hall, and one published not less than 20 days before the sale in the Humboldt Sun. We tend to run that publication 4 times anyway, starting at 20 days prior. Directing me to also sell the property for no less than the amount of taxes, costs, penalties, interest, and recording fees legally charged against each property. Currently, just the taxes and fee, just the delinquent taxes are $26,673.39 on all of those properties. However, I do have one amendment to this list, and that is the final parcel on the list, 16-0134-03 at 10 West MacArthur Avenue. That property was paid in full and will be coming off of the list. They paid on Friday, so.
Okay. For item A, then we need a motion to, for a resolution to sell a delinquent tax properties at the 2022 auction.
So moved.
Minus
Right, I figured it would be in any corrected list she's going to have.
Yes, all of these properties have up until 3 days prior to the auction to redeem their properties, so there could be more who come off this list as well.
Yeah. Did I hear a motion?
You did.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Item B is a request to enter into an agreement with Morton Asset Management for investment purposes to better manage the county's certificates of deposit, pending a review of the Humboldt County District Attorney's Office.
Good morning, Rona Leckenberry again. I'm just looking at contracting with Morton Asset Management. Currently, I have certificates of deposit, but I have some here with, Wells Fargo and some with Stifel and some with Nevada State Bank and some with US Bank. And I'd just like to consolidate those into one manager I guess. They will be working with them, will still hold to maturity. They are approved through the state of Nevada, and I'm just looking to bring that all into one place. They did, Deputy DA Maddox had some suggested changes in the contract. They did agree to those, and I believe, I don't know if she's had a chance to review them, but I did forward that to her. But they did agree to all of her changes.
Okay. Any questions? Motion?
Motion. I'll make a motion to authorize the treasurer to enter into and sign the agreement with Morton Ton Asset Management pending approval by the district attorney's office.
Okay, we have motion on the floor. Discussion on that? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rona.
I have a question real quick. This is Commissioner Hill. So I've looked through a lot of these properties that are going up for auction. You know, some of them are just like little slivers off of between things. Is there anything we can do as a county to just like clean that up versus, you know, trying to make somebody's life hell by auctioning off a little piece of property between two properties or?
So in order, my understanding is in order for the county to do anything with those, the county has to take ownership of them. So you would again have to go through this process of petitioning to remove it from auction.
It just seems like some of them don't make any sense.
As far as some of those properties in Golconda that are really small, that is kind of a, it's, how do I say it? So it starts at kind of the planning level and the parceling level. So you would have to change what's allowed in that.
It seems like a lot of these that are useless pieces of property always end up staying back on our, and it's just extra work for you guys to relist it and you know, versus like you say, a planning deal where we could extend somebody's or share it between the two properties, give them each 2 feet and replan it that way, but it's just not the way it works.
I think the county would need to take, again, the county would need to take ownership. They'd need to petition to take that for public purpose, and then they could do with it as they pleased.
I just wonder if,
I'm not
I know I've only been here a year, but I see a lot of these that are coming back up again that are just, how long are they going to, how long are we going to keep spending money
Commissioner Hill,
relisting them?
You know, what we just did with the previous one is exactly the process we'd have to go through for those slivers. And maybe that's, to your comment though, maybe that's a conversation we can have with planning and with the assessor's office, treasurer's office, to see if there's an opportunity for us to consolidate those or put them up, consolidate them so they can be used. So.
And the ones in Golconda, there are 5 that have been coming back and coming back and coming back, and they're pricing themselves out.
Right.
Eventually, we're either going to have to forgive some of the penalties to bring that price down and try to sell them again, or the county's going to have to take them. Otherwise, they just keep coming back. They keep accruing penalties, keep accruing interest. I mean, again, that's probably an agenda item for another day.
Yeah, this Commissioner Hill, I just wonder if we could look at that in the future and maybe they could bring us a list and say, these are the ones that, you know, are useless to sell, but they could be beneficial to the property owners that are adjacent or something. We could assume that.
Yeah,
Clean them up for you guys.
I can certainly
And
come
for the
back after
county.
auction, see what goes, what doesn't. We can certainly.
Yeah,
come
why
back and
don't we
address that again.
do that? Let's go to auction first, see what comes back, and then let's put this out on there and sit down with Wendy and see what our options are with regard to that.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Good point,
you.
Commissioner.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to item 11, which is a clerk's request to waive the attrition policy to hire administrative clerk 1-2. This is a item consideration, discussion, possible approval for a request to waive the county attrition policy for an administrative clerk 1-2 position due to an employee resignation effective March 11, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As explained in the staff report and on the agenda item, I do have an employee that's leaving as of next Friday. So I'm just seeking approval of the attrition policy waiver in order to proceed with hiring.
Yep. This is an essential position in my view. This is with elections coming up and whatnot. She's short now.
We'll be losing Emma. She's moving out of the area, so. Congratulate her too. She got married this weekend.
Yeah, she
Good
did.
for her.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Congratulations, Emma.
Yep. Okay, so do we have a motion on that? Pretty straightforward as far as I'm concerned.
Anybody else?
You want me to do it? I'll do it. I'll give you a break. This is Commissioner Hill. I would make a motion that we waive the attrition policy to hire an administrative clerk 1-2 for the clerk's office.
Okay. And that was in the county clerk, or in the clerk's office?
Yes.
Okay.
In the county clerk's office.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Just additional discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? This motion carries unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Good. Okay, item 12. This is, we're actually
We're a little
30
early on
minutes
that.
early on item 12. Let's go to item 13. Item 13 is Public Works Department approval of rock crushing bid. This is a consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a bid from Honeywell Construction for rock crushing services in an amount not to exceed $99,000. Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Don Kalkowski, Humboldt County Public Works. So this is just something we do on a continual basis for our outlying areas where we don't have a commercial source to acquire gravel for the roads. This specific one is for the North Valley Pit in Orovada, and that's just so we can replenish the gravel on the roads in that area. We had one bidder, which was Honeywell, and that's not unusual for a project like this, and prices were comparable to what they have been in the past. So,
okay,
questions?
Gotta have it.
No.
Any have a motion or a question?
I'll make a motion. This is Commissioner Hill. I would make a motion that we approve a bid from Honeywell Construction for rock crushing services not to exceed $99,000.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any additional discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Item B is a presentation from our Public Works Director, and he just happens to be sitting up here.
Good morning again, Don
Take it
Kalkowski,
away.
Humboldt County Public Works. So just give a little heads up on what we've been working on. Continuing to work on Jungle Road. We've been adding some material, like I had mentioned last time, various locations. We're getting really close. The road is in really good shape. The reduced traffic with what's going on at Highcroft has helped out a lot out there. So I'm hoping once we get this brought up, we hopefully won't have to set a blade in out there again for a few months, but that could change. Also did some work on Padroli Thompson, Midas Road area, working on various roads out there, including the Midas Road, Hot Springs, Kelly Creek, just dressing them up and fixing some areas. Kelly Creek, we had a road. We're getting a lot more residents out there off of Kelly Creek Road, and the mail service was having some issues being able to deliver up that road because it is a very minimally maintained road. We do maintain it, but maybe once a year. So I worked with the post office, and the guys are building not a place for a cluster, but a place right off of Midas Road that they can put mailboxes, and the residents can come down to the intersection and get it. And the post office is very happy about that.
They are.
Been working in Kings River and a little bit in Orovada. Kings River mainly just adding rock to various locations around the valley and trying to get Horse Creek rock down on that as well. And then the Paradise crew working on Little Humboldt and Chimney, doing some ditch work and back slopes, maintaining fire breaks essentially on that stuff. And I think this week or maybe late last week, they started on Martin Creek in that area. And then this week, the Denio crew's working on the airport. I guess a semi truck got lost and went out on the airport and tore it up. Don't ask me how, but so I guess there were some pretty good ruts in there, so they got to get that all dressed up. And the last thing I have is Star City water system. We finally got well 2 back online. I think you remember late last year, we had to put a new pump in well 2. We've been fighting some coliform issues. We finally got that resolved and we got that online on Thursday. So
Good.
Anything else? Questions?
Anybody have any?
This Commissioner Hill, do you have any plans for Greeley Crossing Road? Or is it?
No, that is no longer our maintenance.
No?
Thank God, huh?
Do you want to call Stan or you want me to call him?
That's now BLM's.
It's all BLM.
So that was part of, if you remember, that was part of our agreement that we had with BLM on Soldier Meadows. So they took Soldier Meadows, we took Greeley Crossing. That agreement has since expired. We're still working through trying to figure out what we're going to do with that agreement. So right now, Greeley is BLM.
Okay.
I had a question having to do with the county campground at Chimney Reservoir.
County campground?
That's your campground. It's our campground. Yeah, that was part of the agreement when the county put the $200,000 into the construction of the Chimney Dam.
Okay.
It came out of that. So we've had responsibility for that site ever since, and I know that's been a kind of an ongoing sore spot for a lot of people and whatnot, and mainly, maintenance of we've got some pretty substantial outhouses, structures there. We've got some camp areas but the biggest one has to do with the garbage. And I think at one time we talked about pulling the cans out of there so that people didn't have the impression that if they left it there, somebody would get up there to haul it off. And I don't know where that stands, but apparently there's quite a little bit of debris up there right now. And it looks like the campground has been abandoned. So,
to be honest, I had no idea that was our responsibility.
So it's our fault too. I mean, I don't think any of the none of the previous commissions that I've served upon really set that out as a real priority either.
Right.
But it is ours, and we did take it on, and we did build it. So,
well, one thing we can maybe do is, like you had mentioned, go in and pull the garbage cans out. We can maybe put some signs up. I can get some signs made that, the pack it in, pack it out.
Right.
Signs, as you're entering that area, and we can plant those and then hope for the best.
Yeah, and I think my view is I think through the largest use periods, maybe put a crew up there once in a while, just a fire hose to hose down the inside of the outhouse and whatnot. That it's a brick structure. Right. I mean, it's a large, it's substantial. Okay. So I think just maintaining that structure, I think would be good. But anyway, I hadn't thought about it in a long time, to be honest with you, until I had a fella call me at home wanting to know what we were doing about it. So I'm passing it on.
This Commissioner Hill, I wonder if we don't, rather than dumping more stuff on Don that he had no idea about, I think it is our responsibility. We own that land there, that we do something, but definitely something maybe we need to look at in budgeting for
agreed.
Yeah, taking it on or assuming responsibility for something that we have, I think it's a great plan to remove the garbage cans and that stuff out of there, because it's just, they probably just get picked through by the crows. And
sure. And there was a period of time years ago that NDOW was interested in cooperating agreement, and I know my crew, NDOW crew, for years used to haul garbage out of there, you know, if you're up there doing creel census, I want you to take the garbage off that site. I think it might not be a bad idea for us to sit down with them and say, hey, you know, are you still on board for that? Because we used to just kind of operate as a team.
So are those bathrooms under Humboldt County or are those being?
Though those are Humboldt counties, but I used to send a seasonal up there every once in a while to clean those up.
Right.
And,
So obviously nothing's been done, no.
is primarily the purpose that Humboldt County built that was for recreation on that reservoir. And
Well, and it's, now that I know about it, and we have we blade little Humboldt and Chimney that goes by out there. I mean, that's something we could take a day
Zip
when
up
we're out there and, you know, we're there, we have water in our water trucks and when we have water out there. So, it would probably be nothing, you know, I haven't looked at it, so I'm not going to commit completely to this. But I don't see, just from what you're explaining, that it would be, you know, maybe half a day going up there and, you know, hosing those out with the water trucks that we have, as long as our water trucks can get in there.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've been out there, so.
Okay. Is it something you think the Nevada Outdoor School would be interested in if we maybe paid them a little bit to do it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity along that.
Right, to fix it up or at least take accountability for it.
Yeah, there's other vendors who do work for other counties and state as well on a lot of their facilities like that.
Might be another opportunity to use the prisoners or something if they wanted a day trip to, if it is that.
And
I'm
they
sure
did
it's-
at one time.
Yeah,
They did use them at one time there.
go out there for a couple days and.
When you say garbage cans, is it like one of our garbage company's cans or no, just garbage, just cans?
55 gallon drums, I would imagine.
And they've over.
They haven't been emptied, I guess, in 2 years that you've been.
Going on 3.
When they
Going on
become-
3. And of course, my guys aren't going to tell me anything about that.
I'd forgotten completely about it, Don, to be honest with you, and I hadn't thought about it until the other day. But
So, yeah.
I don't suspect, it never was much of a problem in the winter months, you know, very little use out there, but spring and summer, it can get pretty significant.
Let me commit, let me go out there, take a look at everything, and the next time we meet, I'll just kind of give you a little rundown on what I think we can do.
Sure.
To help the situation out.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
Mr. Chair, I was just going to mention that this did come up. It's been a while, 6-8 months ago. And so we did look into some grants for that to upgrade the campgrounds. And so I'll have to get back with Rochelle, what she found. It's not coming to me, but I'll check, and I'll also follow up with Melanie Urquiaga, see if they have some interest in helping us out with that. So.
Yeah, there's grant money available through NDOW as well.
Yeah.
For that purpose. Dingle Johnson money is out there for that. In fact, I think there was money, some of that money was used for the construction of that. So.
Yeah, that stuff came up with the Conservation District, I think in Paradise, that we looked at some grants, so.
Yeah.
I'll keep an ear out for that too in those meetings, if there's any opportunity through that group to do anything too. So.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
We still have 20 minutes before our public hearing, so I'm going to move on to item 14, which is the sheriff and our liquor board. Morning, Sheriff.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Humboldt County Sheriff Mike Allen for the record. I'd like to convene the Humboldt County Liquor Board for the second quarter approval. And there are 15 liquor licenses. So I'd like to call Humboldt County Liquor Board to order. And the following businesses have been checked and everything is in order. They consist of the Quinn River Merc, Paradise Valley Bar and Grill, Windspur Supply, Sawtooth Station, BJ's Market, Club 40, Denial Enterprises, Diamond Inn Bar, Pilot Travel Center, A1 Fuel Stop, McDermott Gasoline Motel, Valmy Chevron, Say Win, Watering Hole Number 1, and the Rocky View. Like I said earlier, all businesses are in good operating order, and I'm looking for a motion to approve the second quarter liquor license.
Motion to approve this second quarter business licenses as presented by the sheriff.
I'll second it.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I will hereby adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Kim, you think we have 20 minutes? Take care of this? Yeah, you're 15 on
Should
this.
be easy.
On this item and we've got 20. We've got 20 minutes till our public hearing comes up, so.
Yeah. So we had to bring this back because, yeah.
Okay, this is item 15, which is from the Winnemucca Events Complex, Ag District 3. This is a request to approval for a slurry seal crack fill for striping proposal. This is consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve a proposal from Sierra Nevada Construction to slurry seal, crack fill, and stripe 3 parking lots at the events complex in the amount not to exceed $164,007. Where'd that came from? Okay.
Good morning, Kim Peterson, Winnemucca Convention Visitors Authority and Winnemucca Events Complex. Thank you. As you recall, the last commission meeting, we had discussed this and we got down to make a motion and we realized that we didn't have the right number on the agenda. So we're back here again. We have the right number of the $164,007, and I'm hoping that now we're still eager to proceed with approving that bid.
Question. And Kim, I think the question was, would the company honor that?
Yes, and I had got back Dave that day, and they were, and are glad to have the business and like working with Humboldt County. So they did.
Good. Any additional questions?
No, this is Commissioner Hill. The only thing is I just wanted to bring up again is it was 20,000 over the original budget, but we had decided that ARPA money was going to replace something
in another project.
So I just want to make sure that
Yeah, so that we'd stay within our budget.
we're clear on that and that we stay within that budget.
And I'll just state for the record, I mean, you have a short window of opportunity on this asphalt when it starts going away on you. And you either pay me now or you pay me a lot later. So I think it's in our best interest and certainly for the fairgrounds' best interest to move forward.
I agree. And I think
Cheaper.
holding that bid, the contractor's probably cringing at this point with his oil prices.
Yep.
He probably wants to get it on the ground tomorrow. So I think we better approve this now and get it.
We have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the Agricultural District Number 3's recommendation and to accept the proposal from Sierra Nevada Construction in the amount of $164,007 to slurry seal, crack fill, and stripe all 3 parking lots at the Winnemucca Event Center.
Okay, we have a motion. Have any discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'd like to take just a few more moments of your time. I'd like to acknowledge the foresight and support the Humboldt County Commissioners had that took the controversial vote 22 years ago to construct the indoor event center. This facility has allowed us the ability to produce and host numerous of large events that have contributed greatly to the local economy and the quality of life of our citizens here in Humboldt County. I think the Ranch Hand Rodeo this past weekend is a perfect example. In spite of the snowstorm, over $400.50 a gallon fuel, and just being in the middle of winter, our attendance was only a few $100s less than our highest recorded year that we've ever had. Our hotels were full. Our restaurants and local businesses were bustling. Participants, spectators, and vendors all had a great time. I judge that in part by the fact that we also had a record bar sales this past year. So I think everybody was having a good time. We also appreciate the support that we have received from all the commissioners since that original vote that have allowed us to add and the support facilities and equipment that we have needed to grow and maintain our status as one of the premier facilities on the West Coast. We appreciate each of you that understand the importance this facility plays in the success of our local economy and are willing to continue supporting us as we stay abreast of what is needed to accommodate our current events and to make the improvements needed to get new ones. So again, I thank you all very much for this continued support, and I think this weekend was a perfect example of that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just want to kind of alert the commission and community. I was able to tour and have a meeting at Winham in Fallon at their new convention center. It's a first-class facility as well, but they have a long ways to go to catch up with Winnemucca. They have a building, but they don't have the stalls. They don't have the hookups, RV hookups. They're going to have to put all that stuff in. It's imperative that we keep our status, our position here in Winnemucca as the go-to place for many of these events, particularly these rodeos and ranch hand rodeos and high school rodeos and all that stuff. The other thing that Fallon doesn't have over Winnemucca, it doesn't have motel rooms. They got, they're close to Reno. I guess people could go back and forth to Reno, but they are going to work real hard to be competition to Winnemucca here, and they will be. So it's imperative that this commission, the Ag District 3 Board, WCVA, do what it has to do to keep that a first-class, #1 type of facility.
Yeah, I agree.
Because that facility brings lots of outside money to this community. This weekend was a.
But I appreciate that. I'd also like to add to that we just came off a great sports season. We had a great tournament here, basketball tournament that followed a great wrestling tournament. We were able to use our plastic floor, the portable basketball court that we own, and we were able to host the regional basketball tournament here, which again was great for the community, filled lots of rooms and brought in lots of parents and grandparents to spend money in our community. So
a lot of spectators at this basketball game.
Oh, yeah. Not to mention what a great job our kids did going on the stage.
That's true.
Proud grandpa.
Yeah, grandpa.
Yeah. No, it's a community effort, but you said something, we focus a lot on the money that we bring in the door, but you mentioned, in addition to that, the quality of life. And it does. It provides for a significant improvement in quality of life in our community. And there's a reason that Churchill County has us in their sights. It's because they see what we have here and what we've been able to provide. And I agree. I think it's something we have to keep on the radar.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add a couple of comments. This is Commissioner Hill. You look down there during the week and you hear people say all that money we spend down there and all those RV stalls and everything, and hard to justify. But when you have a weekend like we just had, we had several hundred contestants in the ranch rodeo and also held a 300-400 person barrel race at the same time. Yep. Every stall out there had a horse trailer in it, and every hotel was full, and you couldn't get into a restaurant to save your life. So it's weekends like that that really make us shine. I've stayed at probably every fairgrounds in the state, and ours is by far my favorite. We have everything you need plus some, so that's what attracts people. Like Commissioner Cherry said, Fallon's trying to be right there with us, but we already have hotels. We already have a lot of the infrastructure in place to hold these events. So we just need to keep on keeping on.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to correct him a little bit. He says we have everything we need. We're not quite there yet.
You have a list.
Yeah, that's right. With this snowstorm, I need a few more covered stalls.
How am I not surprised?
But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ken.
Okay, we have It's 9:50. We have 10 minutes. We're going to take a run at item 16, which is Buildings and Grounds request to conduct an asbestos assessment at certain county-owned facilities. And this is an item, consideration, discussion, possible approval of a proposal from Sato Environmental Consultants to conduct asbestos assessments at 534 Malarkey, 3 Quonset huts and Bengochia Circle in Winnemucca, Nevada, and a communications building and an annex building based restroom located at 311 South Bridge Street. The agreement with Sato is an amount not to exceed $38,606 and is pending the district attorney's review and approval. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Enoch Gaitan, Buildings and Grounds. So, so this item is to try to get an approval from the commissioner to hire Satter Environmental to do the survey in those buildings. We like to get those buildings eventually demolished for the purpose of get it ready for, like, example, on Malarkey side. When we do the remodel here, we need to get that other side kind of cleared up for future portable buildings. As well, the other 2 Quonset huts at Bengochia, it's for our future, for our buildings and ground buildings as well. And then the other ones, like in Winnemucca Mountain, it's already empty, vacant, and it's no longer needed, and it's kind of like a hazard have that building up in there. And the last one will be the other Quonset hut, the same Bengochia Circle. It's no longer needed there, so we like to combine all these in once, see if it is possible.
Is that pretty much, in your view, the list of buildings and structures we have in county ownership that could conceivably have asbestos contamination in them then?
Correct.
Okay, so we don't have anything else out there that we'd be talking about, possibly?
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to look at this one here once we get into the remodel too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that'll come later on.
We're way too early on
Getting right,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yep.
So when you made a list of these and the cost on the list of these, were these costs all based on specific items, and could it be cheaper than the 38,606?
Yes, this is the quote for individual buildings, but if we combine all one in one, it will be, the price will drop dramatically. That's what Satos Environmental says. So he break it down individually, but if we combine all one in ones, he adjusts the price, and it won't be the 28,000. It will be less than that. But he can't really predict what would be the cost until he get all these building all together approval, and then he minimized the time, travel time, and all that per day. He's thinking he might can do 2-3 buildings a day, maybe 2, but that. At the end, ultimately, he let us know what the total cost will be if we combine all in ones.
This is
Mr.
one
Chair.
of those.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Hill. This is one of those regulatory requirements that we have,
Yeah.
NEPA, we have to have this done before we can do anything with these buildings. So and we won't know what the cost of getting rid of asbestos is until we have this done. So I think, now's probably a good time to at least have those numbers, and then we can decide in the future what we want to do with them.
Yeah. Dave?
Yeah, Mr. I was just going to add that the way it reads in the staff report is it is required before we can demolish these sites, which is true. Although it doesn't mean we have to demolish them. I think the goal here was, as Enoch just mentioned, was to have that company come out one time over a 2 or 3 day period and get all these done, and then they make a recommendation to the company that actually abates it, that actually does the work to abate those. That will come back before you. So this does not include the abatement of the whatever they find, if they find anything. For example, he doesn't think he's going to find anything at the Winnemucca Mountain site at all because it's pretty wide open right now. It's just a big old tank, that's what I call it, a tank. So, but yeah, it'll be much less expensive if we do it all at once. We get them done. And the only one that doesn't include, as we mentioned, was the courtrooms, but we'll wait for that when they start renovating before we go there so that we don't have to cause any havoc over there right now.
Right.
Well, that was the only question I had. I was reading this so basically what he's going to do is come up and look at the buildings. He hasn't done that yet? Or is this the 38,606 not to exceed going to be the removal of what he finds?
No.
No.
Okay, so this is just who come look.
Yeah, he's got to take the samples, send them away, see what's there.
They have to do a formal report and basically sample everything.
Yep.
And then they'll put a report together for whoever mitigates the asbestos or whatever. They'll have an official report of what they're going to do.
Yeah. Any additional questions?
Motion.
Yep, motion?
Motion to approve building and grounds request as presented to Contract Sato Environmental Consultants Incorporated to provide consultation services for asbestos abatement required for the demolition of 5 buildings owned by Humboldt County. May include a residential building located at 537 Malarkey Street, the old Winnemucca Mountain Communications Building, east and west Quonset huts located at 3320 Bengachia Circle, and a Quonset hut located at 3185 Bengachia Circle, and then annex building basement restroom project in an amount not to exceed $38,606.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any additional discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I want to tell you guys, all this information that was included in the staff report helps us get through this a whole lot easier. Thank you for doing that.
Thanks for getting it done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's 9:57. You guys want to take 3 minutes? Yep. Okay.
I don't know, Jim. I can't make it down and back in 3 minutes. I got a little.
Well, maybe we'll give you 4.
Now you're on.
Okay, we're on now.
Yep, we'll do
We're
it.
back to a 10 o'clock item. Public hearing is continuation on a nuisance update. This is a consideration, discussion, possible action per Humboldt County Code 8.04.010 related to a nuisance complaint filed against property located at 7140 Jackson Road, Winnemucca, Nevada, owned by Don L. Sakurada, assessor's parcel number 13-0541-16. The commission set a requirement for the property owner to provide a proposal and time frame for demolition or evidence that contractors were contacted and refused to bid to demolish. Said action to include allowing the property owner more time to abate the nuisance and to request the district attorney's office take legal action against the property owner instead. So, Mr. Sakurada, are you on the phone for this or your family?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And I believe, Mark, you're on the phone as well, correct?
Hey, Mark, if you're on the phone, you got a *6 to unmute yourself. I believe he's on.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
I'm going to assume he is.
He's now unmuted, so.
Thank you.
Okay, this item pretty clear. We've all been jumped through the hoops on this one. We have in front of us a demolition proposal for the said property from DeLong Construction Incorporated, dated March 1st, 2022. The question was asked a few minutes ago whether Mr. Sakurada, you signed that proposal or you have a contract in the works?
Oh, sorry, this is Keaton. So when we spoke to Todd, everything was verbal and we apologize. He said he doesn't have a formal contract set up there. He was going to discuss that with his secretary. But as of right now, we do have proceedings to move forward with the demolition of it through DeLong Construction. But also as a plan B, we were in contact with Rory Rookstool excavation as well. And if DeLong stalls out longer than 30 days, then our plan is to proceed with plan B, which will be going with Rory Rookstool excavation on there. But yes, as of right now, we do have plans to move forward with the demolition.
So I haven't heard a date yet. Are you moving forward now, or what is now that you have a couple of prospects out there, what's your timeline look like?
Well, as per the quote, it said 3 weeks from March 1st, and we apologize. Raymar took a little bit longer than what we anticipated, but that was the holdup from our end, which is not, I apologize, not the problem of the commission. But we should be looking for within 3 weeks of that March 1st deadline. That's on the quote.
Okay. Everybody hear that then? We're looking at the month of March that this is going to.
Yeah, this Commissioner Hill. Yeah, that was me that asked that question earlier when we were handed this quote. So this is a quote. I guess my concern would be is that it's finalized and that we're going to move forward on it and not just looking at a quote here.
Correct. Yes, and in fact, actually, so we'll be doing payment today, and if the commission would like, we can submit a form of payment as a formal means to solidify for the interest of the commission.
All right, this Commissioner Hill, I think that'd be a good idea just for accountability, so that we know that this is going to continue to move forward and we can put this behind us.
Yeah, understandable.
Okay. Any additional question? Mark, did you have any questions or comments that you want to make to the commission?
No, thanks for the opportunity, and just appreciate Sakurada's making good progress since the last meeting, and look forward to seeing DeLong across the street demolishing the nuisance building. So thank you for that.
You bet. You bet.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Let's make sure that they understand that any of the rubble that's taken into the landfill has to be paid for. We're having trouble with, getting that paid to the county. Would you just make sure that they understand that, you know, what
That
as
would
they
be
describe,
DeLong,
I'm
right?
sure that DeLong does, but anybody else, you know, what they've been trying to get out of it.
And that would be DeLong?
No.
Pardon?
It would be DeLong, if DeLong has the proposal that will be doing the demolition, we would be collecting from DeLong then, I'm guessing.
Well, DeLong understands it, but a lot of the other contractors don't, and a lot of
Okay.
the other people that are hiring the contractors don't. So we might put that in.
So is this an item that we should be discussing outside of this one, or would you want to incorporate that somehow?
Just
in
make
here?
sure that Sakurada understands that they will be liable for the landfill costs.
Right.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's, Commissioner Haas is right. So one would assume, but I don't think we can assume that the $9,100 includes that cost of disposing that. But if it doesn't, they need to be aware that Sakuradas would be responsible in the end, since it's their property.
Okay.
Just want them to make sure that they understand that it's their responsibility.
Okay.
I haven't seen too many quotes that have gone out that had landfill on it. And then this fine lady back here can attest to having trouble getting the landfill fees paid for stuff like this, so.
Okay. Okay, so do we, what is your pleasure today then? Are we moving? My impression is that we're moving forward. Got some momentum on this. We're moving forward. I think, do we want to put a date, end of this month, middle of next month? How do you want to do it? 15 April? That we have an update on this, or maybe the first April meeting, we get an update? And then we can take an action based on that.
Wendy Maddox, purpose of the records. The only suggestion I would have is I'm just thinking about notice. And so if you so choose to set a date, I would just ask for you to have a public hearing set right after that date. And if you did it today as a continuance, we then would not have to renotice and resend mail to the people that are present on the call today, the Sakurados and the complainant.
Does it have to be a public hearing? Can't we just ask for an update?
Well, essentially the nuisance still exists until it's gone. And so I would ask, I think a public hearing would be the best forum for you to take action, whether, you know, whatever action that's going to be. If it's not abated by that certain date, I think a public hearing would be most appropriate.
Yeah.
I think,
So the first meeting in April is 4th. The first regular meeting, commission meeting is April 4th. Is that appropriate? Do we set a public hearing for April 4th to get an update on this and maybe we can at that point,
3 weeks, clean it up.
Yeah, either the 4th or the 18th is the other meeting in April. The 4th is our budget hearing, so maybe we could move it to the 18th,
okay,
just so that we don't have to deal with that on the budget hearing day.
okay, that's fair enough.
And then that gives them the full 30, well, a few more days anyway, in case there's any delays.
Okay. So the new proposal is the 18th to get away from our budget hearing that we'll be conducting on the 4th. So continue this action until the 18th of April. Schedule a public hearing at that time, and then we will determine whether or not this is that they've completed what's been requested of them. Okay.
Yep.
Get that in the form of a motion. Well, it's the public hearing. We got to go back out to the public. Any public comment on this item? Okay, not hearing any additional public comment. Back to the commission. We need a motion.
Wouldn't we continue this and then a motion to set a public hearing? I mean,
You could just, you're right. You could just make a motion to continue this public hearing to the date you've selected.
I'd make a motion that we continue this public hearing, a nuisance complaint of John Sakurada at 7140 Jackson Road until our meeting, regular scheduled meeting on April
18th,
2022.
Yep, April 18th. Okay. Any additional comment on this item? 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Any additional? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Sakurada, and thank you, Mark, for weighing in. Hopefully we'll finish this on the 18th. Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to go to item 17. Technology services, presentation for information only, a request to approve tenant waive the attrition policy and purchase equipment. This item A is a presentation by Humboldt County Technology Services Director Rick Grantham to update the board on Technology Services Department and TV district projects.
It's a mouthful. Good morning, Commissioners. What I'd like to start out with is the public safety communications upgrade. This phase 2 of the project was to update 4 sites in our northern leg, which would include Denial, Double H, Eagle Creek, and McDermott. We targeted McDermott because it's Humboldt County property. That would give us the time, once we build on Humboldt County property, for the grant right-of-ways that we applied for the Double H to modify the site, and for the Eagle Creek site so we can modify it. Along the process of the McDermott site, there is a process that we have to file with the FCC and the FAA, which is called a TOWARD application. We failed that application. And basically, we're in a sort of a 3-month minimum holding pattern before FAA can come out, do a physical check of where the tower is going to be located, and to see if it's going to interfere with the landing pattern for the airport. CSI Engineering is saying minimum 3 months. It could be much longer. We don't know. We're just basically at the mercy of the FAA. So with that, I would like to recommend that we point our efforts towards the Double H site, since the grant for that site has been approved and we are authorized by the BLM to modify that right away. So a lot of stuff going on there. As far as the other equipment that's been ordered for McDermott and everything else, we still have the tower. We just cannot erect it. The radios are on schedule so far of the order that you guys approved earlier. The RFP is on hold to build the concrete pads and to erect the tower until we get this registration from the FAA. So we're sort of in a holding pattern. And instead of sitting still, I'd like to direct our efforts towards the Double H site and get moving on that modification and engineering. Is there any questions on that? I know it's a lot.
When you say right away, is that the road going to the site?
The BLM grant is like a right of way or an authorization to go ahead and modify the site, the footprint that we're in, where the building actually lies, and actually building a tower pad to erect a tower.
I need to take a swing at this. What does Plan B look like on McDermott if FAA comes back and says no? What's Plan B look like?
I don't have one at the moment.
Because that's a crucial.
Correct. And from what I'm understanding from the CSI Engineering, it should be approved. There's no reason why it wouldn't, because there's an existing tower 100 feet away from it. So the feeling is it will be approved.
So are we required to submit an appeal then? Is that what's being worked on now, or?
I don't know if it's considered an appeal. I do know that CSI has contacted FAA to have them come out and physically inspect where the tower is going to go for the landing area.
Okay. Okay. Any questions, guys, on that? So Eagle Creek is going to come right behind Double H, you think? Are we sitting in a place where we're got major delays on that one as well, or?
We're still waiting for the grant right away. And the last we heard, it shouldn't take very long from this, about a couple months ago, Dave?
Right.
For that authorization to go through.
All right.
The BLM says it shouldn't take too long. And that's a really good,
Wow. Wow. That's several lifetimes. Yeah.
that's only maybe 2 if it doesn't take too long.
Yeah. Yeah. That's several lifetimes.
Yeah. So with that, is there any other questions on that portion of it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I'm not sure I heard you right on the Eagle Creek, McDermott. We're a hold on Eagle Creek for the grant.
The grant right away to
Right.
modify the site.
Does the McDermott site have anything to do with when we can move on Eagle Creek?
No, it's
Okay.
county property. It's basically build it, and then once we finish the other sites, it all gets tied in and operational.
Okay. Any additional questions on that item? Okay.
Okay.
Going to B.
Also, along with this, that my recommendation is to move towards the efforts of modifying Double H, since we have the grant right away. NDOT, I have a gentleman here in the audience for item B on this list, that if you have questions for NDOT, NDOT has shown a high interest in co-sharing the costs and building out of Double H. They need that facility also for their building and their public safety communications. So I've been working with NDOT quite a bit on discussions of that. And that's what will lead into item B. And if you have questions for him, I'd like to bring him up here to answer item B, but I'd also like to finish the rest of the presentation I got here.
Okay, before we move off of the NDOT the request, is that going to require additional, or are we going to have to upscale the size of the building and or modifications to the tower? Are we looking at that in order to accommodate 2 tenants in that building, or is it going to?
That's one of the
same?
engineering discussions that we'll have with CSI and to see what we can fit in our existing footprint.
What's your sense on that?
I don't have an answer for that. I think, yes, that we'll have to increase the tower height. As you know, BLM is always asking Humboldt County and government entities to allow other people into it. But they still hold a tower height restriction to us. And the idea is okay, well, you can only shove so much on engineering wise for everything to work correctly on a tower. Otherwise, you need more vertical separation, which increases the tower height. Well, on the other one hand, BLM wants us to do this, co-share sites, but they don't want to lift that restriction in height. So now my comment basically was, we'll have 10 30-foot towers versus one real tall one. So we'll leave it up to engineering to make sure between NDOT and CSI, our engineering firm, to see if it will work with the existing height.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
So will NDOT share in the construction costs or just the lease? Are we just talking about?
That is the proposal. That's why I asked Richard Brooks here from NDOT when we get ready to discuss item B on the list.
Yeah, I think he still wants to go through his updates first, then we'll come to B.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can come back to B then. All right, C?
Actually, he's not.
Oh,
on
no,
C.
I'm not. I'm
He's
still
doing one. He's still doing A.
Yeah, I'm still doing A.
Should have
I
clarified.
more information to give you guys.
Okay.
More updates. How's that? Last year, this board approved us about $47,000 to do an auxiliary connection to Lumen Fiber. The circuit was provisioned by Lumen, and the access would have been in the Verizon building right next to Burger King. Verizon came back and basically said, no access. You cannot get into this site to do any of your connections to the fiber. So that project never really got off the ground besides getting the circuit approved by Lumen. Currently, Plan C, D, E, and F, I have been working with NDOT and Sky Fiber to tap into Lumen along I-80 corridor and or the NDOT building on 4th Street. The circuit being proposed by Lumen for us to tap into is more than double of the cost of what was originally offered at the Burger King site. Roughly $6,000 a month. It was also quite a bit of bandwidth capable. So right now, I've just sort of said, timeout. What other options can we find out? Can we work with NSHE and or NDOT to make this more feasible to us to get access to the switch center, which was the end goal. So we have duplicate access to the World Wide Web. We're still working on it. Lumen has come back and said, you guys have 30 days left within your 90-day window to make this connection, or that offer is off the table, and then we'd have to relook at it and reprice it. I got a lot of work to do between now and Thursday to see if we can find out an alternate access. I don't think the county needs that much bandwidth, and I don't think the county should be paying that much. So I'm trying my best to find out alternative ways with NDOT and NSHE to see if we can get a circuit working. But it's going to take some time.
Okay.
So the secondary access to Lumen does not exist at this point. Moving on. So another project that we've been working on is Denio Summit. And this one gets a little complicated. Denio Summit, we have a BLM right away. AT&T is leasing land or leasing equipment and space on ComNet's equipment at that site. AT&T has started this project that they got the federal government that they won for FirstNet nationwide. They're under a timeline to finish building out all their sites in the West. SAC Wireless was hired by AT&T to work with entities like us and ComNet Wireless to modify those footprints in our right-of-way to build new towers and put up new buildings. I've been working with from probably about a year now on design plans that they've been proposing. We've changed it time after time. The goal is that no matter what they do inside our right-of-way, it does not have an impact on Humboldt County, blocking our equipment, too much RF level and everything else. So we're close to me looking at and agreeing to those plans. At that point, I will come back in front of the board and say, okay, here's the plans. I've submitted them to you. The idea would be that the board has to approve SAC Wireless, if they choose to approve, to amend our right-of-way and file it with the BLM for them to build inside our right-of-way. So that is a project that's been going on for well over a year, and we still haven't finished or finalized the designs on that. You look puzzled.
Well, this is puzzling.
Yeah, it is.
I keep coming back to, and you can move on this, but I just keep coming back to how does this impact the budget requests and proposals we had in front of us initially. And obviously we have an intense interest in terms of the cost. And secondly, the momentum that, whether we are losing momentum or we're gaining momentum to get this project completed. So.
You mean for the public safety project?
Right. Yeah.
The goal is once I've reviewed these plans and say, okay, board, I do approve of this, is not to impact us money-wise. Basically, the ultimate bill will be paid by AT&T, and as the goal is not to impact Humboldt County, interference-wise and or physically, because it's a very narrow area up there on Double H where they're going to have to build it. It's basically building everything on a cliff. Yeah, so it should not impact our public safety phase 2 upgrade.
Okay.
So Denio Summit is where I'm working with SAC Wireless on that. SAC Wireless is also working and bringing up plans for Double H. Basically, they would like to add on to their existing footprint and build another tower. Once we approve those, I'll be doing the same thing, bringing it in front of the board for SAC Wireless have the authorization within our right-of-way. And there's also a little input in there of something that has to be clarified, but the BLM is requesting a letter from Humboldt County stating that we will not allow SAC Wireless in our facility. So I have to dig into that a little bit more with BLM and with SAC Wireless to figure out what that is, but they're asking for a letter authorizing, they're asking for a letter denying their access to our facility. So that way they can work with the BLM and move forward on their project on Double H. So that's one of the other projects I'm working on that's hanging out there with SAC Wireless. And it is a lot. It takes up a lot of time trying to work with these other engineers and these companies. They're relentless, to say the least. To give you an idea, another project that we've been working on, we went into the Public Works building up there at the road department and redid all the network wiring for the facility. Don helped us out a lot, him and his crew, building a pipe on the outside of the building so we could put microwave links on the building. Enoch's crew built us a room inside there so we could get the equipment out of Jen's area and put it up in an air-conditioned, environmentally controlled room so we can expand the facilities from that area. So I appreciate the Enoch's crew and Don's crew for getting that done. Hopefully we'll have that turned over and operational this week, provided I can get this issue taken care of up north. And then on to the TV district. If the board remembers, I'm going to refresh the new members. We ran up what we call a DMA issue, designated market area. So we were somewhat forced to remove the Idaho channels being broadcast in Humboldt County. We have worked with television broadcasters in Reno to fulfill that agreement. We have done that. There is a thing that sort of slides under what we call the designated market areas. Independent channels can be brought in and broadcast here. So I've reached out to some Salt Lake channels to see if we can bring in ION, and I can't remember the other one's name off the top of my head, which has Grit back, which will make a lot of people happy. To bring that through the fiber project that I designed up several years back. It'll come from Salt Lake on fiber to the switch center, then back to us to be able to broadcast 2 different independent channels over the air. Still working on that. I just wanted to brief the board that, you know, we're just not status quo. We're trying to do our best to fill those temporary channels. And once I have more information, then I'll be back in front of the board to say, this is a good idea. Let's move forward or not move forward on this project. Any questions on that? A lot of stuff, huh? Yeah. So I'd like to move on, if we can, to item B on the list.
Okay, that's consideration, discussion, and possible approval for authorization to proceed with the discussion and preliminary planning to allow NDOT as a tenant in the county's Double H Public Safety Communications site.
Richard, would you like to go? In case they choose to have questions for you. I was going to hope that the board had questions that more than likely I could not answer, so that's why I asked Richard Brooks from NDOT to show up to give you an idea of what they're going to bring to the table for the modification to the Double H site.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. For the record, Richard Brooks with the Department of Transportation, State of Nevada. We are going through a major change of our whole radio system statewide right now, where it's in a phased approach. And we're replacing all our existing 35-year-old radio system with a brand new P25 radio system for public safety. What we did is we hired a company to study the areas that we operate in and what we needed. Double H was one that came up because the highway is not covered for the highway patrol or NDOT staff for the highway. We, I think, either used to through a highway patrol or somebody had Double H.
Yes.
So when we came in looking for it, I said, okay, there's and I know Rick from way back. There's a possibility that site, if we could, we have 2 options here. Go to the BLM, propose a brand new site construction next to you guys up there. That's a 2 to 3 year process at best. Well, I said at best. Or we partner with you folks, since you're in the middle of upgrading that site, to add value to that site, whether it be funding for part of the construction, funding for part of the maintenance, through a cooperative agreement with Humboldt County. We wouldn't do it any other way because it benefits both of us. But the whole point is if we come to the table with what we were gonna probably spend over $1 million on this site with funding to help you folks along, that allows two things. Gets it done the way we need to get it done and you need to get it done, but allows you to move on to other projects where you may be not able to fund right now. So maybe there's some other options in that you can say, well, if I'm not spending $500,000 in this site, I can look at my overall budget and say, maybe I can do something else. So state of Nevada would, right now, would probably be, well, we have some discussions to do as far as requirements for power and things like that. I have 1 rack space and 2 antennas on the tower is what I'll have total. Power for the site will be something we would probably augment your proposed power plan so that if we expand either the charging capability or the battery reserve, it's become something like that. We could provide a generator. We could fuel the generator tanks for you guys. We could do a lot of things like that. If the tower ends up being that we have to increase the tower height, we'll come to the table with funding for that, whether it be the whole tower, allowing you to use that one somewhere else, or adding to the cost of it. As far as the engineering time for it, I think you said, who's the company that doing?
CSI.
CSI. If there's a cost involved with changing that, then through a cooperative agreement, we can help fund some of that too. We want to be partners in this thing, we don't want to own it. We want to be a partner in it. So we share the cost of maintenance and everything that goes along with it from that point forward. So that's kind of why Double H came up. We did talk about some of the other sites, but
yes,
I'm not there in my study yet. I've got to go back to my engineers, say if I add some of these other sites in, what's it going to do for me? Right now, we want to cover 99% of the highways in the state of Nevada. That's the whole plan. That Double H site is key to making that piece of the highway covered up there. So if you have any questions for me, or happy to answer whatever I can.
So along that line then, are we thinking about the Denial Summit site as well then? Because, you know, for picking up 140 all the way around the corner.
Still a little early. We have a couple filler sites in between there that they may look at. But again, the big goal from the state's point would be Double H to start out with. And that's part of B's here is your authorization to move forward because it's going to generate some costs, but we do need to get the cooperative agreement or the MOA or some kind of contract worked out with the DA's office. And that's probably going to take a little bit of time, but we'd like to move forward since we still do have that 3-month delay pending the FAA approval in McDermott.
Right. That makes sense. I think, you know, rather than put, you know, disturb 2 sites on the same side of that hill up there, it makes sense, you know, to upsize slightly and put both users in that room.
Yeah, that's basically my goal. We do a lot of cooperative agreements with different counties throughout the state right now to where we do this. We'll build a site, they occupy it. It's very common. Just haven't really done it with you folks yet. So
yeah, makes sense.
But we don't want to build if we don't have to. If we can make it work, then we'll do whatever we can not to build ourselves.
So what's before us today is, approve an authorization for Rick's crew to proceed with discussion and preliminary planning to allow NDOT as a tenant in Double H. I personally think, go ahead.
Sorry. Wendy Maddox, purpose of the record. I just want to make you aware too that there is an NRS that allows for this sort of thing, and 244.286 allows lease or lease purchase agreements for construction or remodeling of a building or facility. So wanted to make you aware of that. Thank you.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense, really. You know, it's cheaper for you guys, you know, to be able to tag on to a project that we're involved in. It's cheaper for us as well. So I think it makes perfect sense. As long as the compatibility of the 2 systems don't detract from one another, I think.
That's where the engineering is going to come in from, whether the tower vertical separation or not. They are on a different band. So that is a win-win for us from that aspect. And just some of our preliminary discussions, originally they were going to have to put in a microwave path. I believe, Rich, and it's not finalized yet, but the discussion is with our existing diversity shot, there'll be more than enough bandwidth to allow NDOT to utilize some of our bandwidth going on that path, which would dramatically reduce space on the tower. So they don't have to put in their own diversity shot, and it'd be probably either 2 8-footers or 2 12-footers at each site to make these microwave hops.
This Commissioner Hill, it kind of sounds like echo on what you said is the win-win for the county and for this, to save the state some money. I understand a lot of things, but some of this is over my head. I'm gonna be honest. So I'm gonna trust Rick that you will bring forward any concerns to us moving forward. If you do have any valid concerns, that will keep me aware of them. That's all I have.
Yeah.
Any other conversation, discussion?
No, Commissioner Hill, there's a lot of it that I don't understand.
Yeah, me too.
But I think it's great if we can work together with the state, for taxpayers as a whole.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Taxes for the state's project and for the county's project. It'd be great if we can do it for less money and service both.
Yep.
Yep, I agree. Get a motion on that?
I'll try. I'll make a motion that we authorize Technology Services, Rick, to move forward in discussions with NDOT as a possible tenant on the Humboldt County Double H Public Safety Communication Site.
Not me this time.
Okay. Got a motion on the floor. We have discussion on the motion. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you very much for
Let's
your
get
time.
with it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to it.
Thanks, Richard.
Okay.
Thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
Okay, item C. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a request for the waiver of Humboldt County attrition policy to hire a technology services technician position vacant due to staff resignation. Okay.
Ben Wagner has resigned and moved forward along with Tim up in Seattle. So we're down another tech position, which we're down total of 3 positions right now.
And from that standpoint, are we looking at a critical shortage in terms of work program?
I just want to comment that I got a great team working with us right now, and I appreciate all the extra overtime they've been putting in. They're sharing times where we have to bring them in to keep up. And yes, it is very critical. We got to get it moving forward on more employees. What's being offered out there, the people that are applying. I had several discussions with Dave on this. I think we're going to just probably have to pick a couple from local and just put them in a corner and train them for 6 months to a year to get them up to speed. So it's pretty tough right now.
So that's a result of people just not wanting to work, or that's a result of just not having a workforce that's properly trained?
There are people that are applying that are properly trained, but they do want quite a bit of money. Some want to just work from home. And that's not just the case 100%. So it is tough. Do you have anything to elaborate on?
Abel Durrell, now Assistant County Manager, HR Director for purposes of the record. It's pretty fierce, the competition for IT positions right now. For example, a few months ago, we actually presented an offer which we thought was very fair to both parties for someone to come in as a Technology Service Tech 2 position based on their experience. As soon as the individual put in their 2 weeks, their employer, which was one of the mines, gave them a substantial bump, and so compelled them to stay. And so that's what we're seeing out there is, we're trying to be fair, but again, there's a lot we're facing out there, especially with all the cybersecurity and all of these concerns that people have now. They're really taking a look at their systems and saying, we need to hire this talent to reinforce, our security. So it's a high demand.
Yes, across the nation
right now,
it is,
across
yeah.
the nation. So
So we're competing directly then.
we are competing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, Dave Mendiola for the record, just want to mention too, this is a position that has to be background. So it takes about 90 days on average.
Yes.
So to get that clearance, so we got to get to it, start it, get it going, because by the time we recruit, interview, get the background done, we could be out 4 to 5 months, so.
Yeah. So it's important that, just from that standpoint alone, the 120-day attrition policy doesn't make sense.
So when we do the background, do we hire them on and then wait for that background, or do they just sit in limbo for 90 days?
No, yeah,
Wow.
they wait. We present them an offer letter. If they sign it, great. Then we give them a background packet from the sheriff's office. It's a sheriff's office grade background because they are working on government systems that are, pretty sensitive. And so it's a pretty thorough. So it's the same as a deputy would go through and almost, I'd say akin to like a security clearance for the government.
So is this 90 days a federal level hold up, or is it a local?
I believe it's commiserate. We have local investigators. So sheriff's office, some of their deputies are trained as investigators. But it's a pretty extensive packet. You have to put in, I think, the last 7 years history, where you've lived, your any contacts, your previous jobs, former, aliases or previous names. It's pretty broad.
What's taking the 90 days? Just
Well, the first lead time or the delay is just the fingerprint. Once they come in and get fingerprinted, then that goes off to the state. And we're at the mercy of the state until that comes back. Once that comes back, I believe, and I don't want to speak for the sheriff's office, but that gives them a footprint to start off the other background investigation. But they need that fingerprint.
And they probably have some holdups on their end federally, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Getting stuff back.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, it's, if you try to reach out to any state agency, it's kind of hard to sometimes get people because they're either working from home or they're short-staffed, and so we're having to deal with that too as part of a barrier to getting people on board.
Okay.
Yeah, so the attrition, or the waiver of this attrition policy is essential for us to get this person in anytime soon.
Yeah, I'll just weigh in. The 2 positions we're down now were, I know being, working for the county or as a commissioner now, are key positions. These were 2 important individuals to this county, and I know Rick is missing them. They're going to be missing them if they haven't left yet. And he needs them. So as long as it's going to take for this position to get filled, I think we definitely need to waive the attrition policy on this so they can get started.
Is that a motion?
I would make
Go ahead.
I'll just make a motion. This is Commissioner Hill. I would make a motion that we waive the attrition policy to hire a technology services technician due to a staff resignation.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any additional comments on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, item D is consideration, discussion, possible approval of purchase of EF Johnson Kenwood VM 7000 Viking mobile radios from Epic Marketing Company in an amount not to exceed $15,000.
Correct. These radios were not budgeted for in this year's budget. I believe I can get them out of the service and supplies item. Currently, in this last radio reprogramming that we did, we found some issues with the older radios, what we call hardware version 1. They would not accept the new programming to handle how the programming has to be to operate the radios up in phase 2. Some of the radios, version 2 hardware, we were able to update the firmware to make them operate with some challenges. But we have at least one that we know of that's out there that needs to be replaced. The goal is to get these 3 new radios installed into the technology department vehicles so we can continue testing with them. And then because of the way these radios are designed, they come in multiple pieces, like what we call a remote option. We can take these out and set them on the shelf. So if an SO vehicle that goes down because of one of the older radios fail, we could take that radio and it's sort of like a modular, replace the base and replace the control head and get that vehicle back out in the fleet and operational. Whereas if we have to do a complete install, Right now, I do not have the personnel, so it may have to be shipped back to Salt Lake to get it fixed and so on. And I don't know the status of the vehicles, if how far they are in the lease or if they're at the end. There's a lot of questions on which one will fail because we don't know. And this way it gives us at least 3 radios to put on the shelf for spare parts. Now, this model of Kenwood radio has been discontinued. It's been end of life. The parts first come, first serve. When Jerry reached out the other day to get updates for the firmware, I was really surprised Kenwood gave him the latest updates, which typically when they say end of life, no support, and it's tough. So that's where we are, and that's the main drive behind getting these radios in.
Just spare parts.
To move them off for spare parts, yes.
Any conversation, discussion, questions? This request.
I have a question. So when we do get phase 2 all done, are we going to have to replace all the radios?
The goal is no. There are radios right now that are operational in the sheriff's office fleet. We're definitely going to have to look at doing something down the road, I do believe. When the sheriff gets new leases on vehicles, the newer radios are coming inside the lease. So I believe we can make a lot of those radios exist until at that point where they go away from the lease and then the new lease bring in with the new radios. So it's sort of a, what's the term I'm looking at? We're biding our time for right now until the new vehicles come in, because I'm sure there's going to be ordering more vehicles coming up to where they'll be put out in the fleet and the older ones get removed from the fleet. If we have to move radios around for version 3 hardware to put in version 1 that exists, then we can do that.
From a budget perspective, this $15,000, you know, as you mentioned, it wasn't budgeted in this last budget cycle. And so that being the case, how do you intend to cover this responsibility in the existing budget without an augmentation?
Through our services and supplies.
Okay. You have that, you have adequate room.
For now, yes, barring that, knock on wood, that nothing else comes up down the road like in an emergency situation. But from what I have in there now, I think I can do that with the stuff that we already planned to spend the supply money on.
Any additional comments, motions? Doesn't look like we have a motion.
I'll make a motion. Motion to approve technology service request as presented to purchase 3 E.F. Johnson Kenwood VM 7000 Viking mobile radios from Epic Marketing Company, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $15,000.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. And move on to item E, which is consideration, discussion, possible approval of a purchase of network switches from Converge One in an amount not to exceed $50,000.
This is an item that was in the previous or this year's budget. I'd like to move forward on buying these switches. We're having some troubles with switches now, and I don't have very many spares left. And it takes some time to get these in-house. Like with everything else, the prices are going to go up in time. So I'd like to order these 3 to have them in spare and then use the one I have now and actually put it online and keep things going. But from an IT perspective, if I don't have any of these on the shelf, we could lose a switch in a critical location and a whole building can be out of service until we get that product in.
So you're proposing 3 additional switches that you're gonna have as backups.
Right.
3 or 5.
Yeah. Says 5.
Does it say 5? I'm sorry. I'm back on the radios of 3. So it'd be 5 switches, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Had 3 stuck in my mind from the radios.
And these, we approved this last
The
budget.
money was approved in the existing budget, yes.
Okay. All right, do we have additional questions on having to do with that? I think he's in front of us right now, just getting authorization to fulfill that purchase that was outlined in the budget.
Yes.
So, motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the Technology Service Department request as presented to purchase the 5 network switches from Converge One in an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Motion on the floor, discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Item F, consideration, discussion, possible approval to purchase sand storage centers from Dell in an amount not to exceed $85,000.
This item was also in the budget that was approved for the budget of this year. When Tim left, this project got put on hold because of it's just one of those things that he was working on to get finalizing quotes and information on. I've been working with the rest of the staff to get these quotes in and get these items and get them ordered. Currently from Dell that we're looking at, it's going to be bumping up right towards the end of the budget year to receive these sands in-house. And these sands are basically a mirror image of what we have existing now that holds all the county data. So these sands would work in conjunction with the ones we have for backup. In case these sands fail, we will have this backup storage capability.
Okay. And tell me again, how were these outlined in this last budget?
They were outlined and down towards, I don't know, did you guys see the full sheet? I can't remember, but the item was approved in the budget for this year.
Okay.
Sure. I do have questions on this one. As I read the background information you provided, it says in 2019, we then approved 2 of these storage centers.
Correct.
And they were put in, but they were, and we approved them because I think we believe these were going to be what you're now asking for, offsite and backup for the system.
Correct.
But it turned out that they're still on site. And so what are we doing now? Tripling our protection or?
No. So when we first initially purchased these 2 sands, the idea would be having one as a standby failover. Once we started implementing them and moving everything to it, the workload went up dramatically. So the sand was working extra hard just to keep everything going. We decided to split the resources so one could fail over to the other, but they're still on site with the proximity of being able to back up. The 2 new sands that we had put in the budget that got approved this year will be put on the offsite storage. So they will also work in conjunction and split the load. So not one sand will be running at 100% duty cycle. And the idea is if any of them fail that we can transfer data. Let me rephrase that. The data will be available on all of them at all the time. So transparency of if we do have a failure in this sand or inside the building, like say for instance, God forbid something happens to dispatch, this offsite storage will support the county 100%.
Okay.
Got you cleared on that one.
So this is, but basically we're talking about it's a backup unit for the offsite storage.
Correct. They'll be located at the offsite storage, yes.
Mr. Chair, Dave Mendiola for the record. So yeah, if you could think of it in a mirrored environment, so what you try to do is at your main site, you'll have all your data, and what they've essentially done here is split it because one system couldn't handle all the volume. Just the amount of data that that we produce every single day. So they put it on two different ones. So, and these two are mirrored and they're sitting in the same site though. So if you had a fire over there or an earthquake and it took out that building, we've got nothing. So that's why we originally thought one here and then one at the offsite. Well, the amount of data is massive right now and it grows every year just because of so many digital things we're moving into, especially when GSA comes on with the new systems, that's going to increase as well. But so what we've done is taken two more of these devices and we'll put them at the what we originally wanted with one. We'll put them over there and they'll mirror each other. So they always look exactly the same. So if something happened to dispatch building, we're still live and going over here at the other building. And that's the idea of your emergency backup.
Yeah. So in other words, what was going to be emergency backup didn't end up being emergency backup. It just took the load off of.
Well, it's emergency backup, but it's on the same site, which, you know, that's not true redundancy backup. Right. It's redundant right now, but it's in the same site. We got to have them at a separate site.
And each year we're adding more and more systems and adding more and more programs to the system, and it keeps just growing.
Okay. So just moving those ones that you put in to be backup off-site wouldn't do it. You have to purchase totally two new units.
Yeah,
or whatever.
that is the goal. So that way we would have that availability to do that.
Okay.
Which again was approved in this year's budget.
Okay.
Chair, I'll make a motion.
Yep.
Make a motion to approve Technology Service Department request as presented to purchase two SAN storage centers for Dell Computer in the amount not to exceed $85,000.
Motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I just have a question, Rick. Sure. I think it was item, you had a million of them here. Let me get back. Our ability to tie into the fiber at Burger King, you said that window had closed, or can you elaborate on that, why we can't tie into
Yes.
that?
So Sky Fiber is basically who we went through to get access to a Lumen fiber connection for the secondary route. Lumen provided the circuit and the connections to be at the Burger King site, which is in the Verizon building. And when Sky Fiber went to get access to that, just to tap into it and provide us with the fiber, Verizon said, absolutely not. You're not getting in our building. And frustration, but yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted clarification on that. So item 7 that we approved earlier with this reconnect, sounds like a big fiber project possibly. Would there be any advantage to the county if that were to all happen?
Item 7.
I think it was.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Dave Mendiola. So Rick, that was one of the first things up today. That's ComNet has they're going for a grant with the federal government to put first mile in up through US 95 up to Denio, Paradise Valley.
Expanding fiber, right?
And essentially putting in, fixed fiber through that area. ComNet was one of the companies that won the auction, which was the FCC auction that took place about a year or so ago. And they now they're committing to extending fiber. As you know, Rick, fiber, ATT has fiber up to that Chevron station. I think it's still Chevron.
A little shy of that, just past the 15-mile mark where that gas pumping station is on the left side there.
Yeah. So ComNet works with AT&T. And so I don't think it helps us at all because it's still
I just wonder if there's an opportunity for us to partner if something were to happen here for our fiber tap that we're looking for.
Not that I see on the surface of this. If they plan to run fiber up north, I think that's going to open a lot of doors for all the citizens up north and everything else, and possibly us. But again, that's on AT&T. And that's one of the things that our fiber project is trying to do, is provide another access to the World Wide Web, not on AT&T.
Gotcha. Okay. That's all I got.
Okay.
Any additional questions for Rick? Okay, thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 18, local Nevada Main Street Committee presentation. This is representatives from the local Nevada Main Street Committee will update the board on recent activities. Good morning, folks.
Morning.
Got to get you to state your name for the record.
For the record, Dave Broden.
J.C. Jackson.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, what we were doing is simply to bring you up to speed on Main Street. We were able to incorporate and get our 501(c) status done and state registration done last, that was about November that we got that.
Yeah, December, I think it was, yeah.
And so we were just here to give you an update on, you know, what can we do in the, we're known as Main Street Winnemucca, but in our bylaws, which I included in the information that was sent to you, is we cover all of Humboldt County. So that if, you know, McDermott or Denial or wanted to do something, we could do something in those areas for either grants that could be like historic or tourism or other improvements. And wanted to find out, what are you working on different areas in the county for improvements?
For basically beautification of the downtown area, which consists of all of the Winnemucca Boulevard and Bridge Street. But where we're coming in is Main Street, and we want to help to fix up, which is one thing that we hear quite a bit about, how our town is looking a little shoddy again. It's looking a little dirty. The buildings are looking run down. And we're wondering if we can get some support. I mean, we've done this in the past with the Downtown Business Association and different affiliates that have worked hard to fix it up. But then what happens is that it goes for a little bit and then everybody backs off of it. It's something that needs to keep going and ongoing. And is the county and also is the city willing to help as well? And that's what we're here for as well, to see where you guys feel if there's a need for it and if a desire for it. Because if it's not a desire all the way around with everybody, then what is the point of just one group trying to do it? It's hard. We did it. There were 4 of us that did it. And we continually got met with obstacles. So now we've come back here as the Main Street project to continue it. And we want to see if our commissioners, our city councilmen, and the people are going to help out as well, because it's not something just 4 or 5 people can do alone.
And so do you have a proposal that, I guess I'm trying to drill down on, you know, what you think you need from us, specifically the county or the city, in terms of what we could provide and do to facilitate what you're just saying? I mean, obviously, I think we'd have 5 opinions here as to what.
Right. Well, we are in need of some grant money or money to get started for sure. That's one thing, and we don't know how to get it going. Well, we do know how to get it going. That's we can do that, but we also need some assistance as well. We have heard that the city is going to, because we approached them, that they're going to work on the sidewalks, and because we need sidewalks. They're horrible all downtown. With the exception in front of the new bank where they redid it there. But then also the lighting, it needs to be updated, needs to be redone. Something needs to be done about Ben's Liquor. Nobody is doing anything, and I don't know what we can do. They say they sent them letters, but we're willing to help them in some way. I understand that it's not everybody's obligation to fix up buildings downtown, but I think with some motivation and some financial assistance, like they did in Sisters, Oregon, they came to the business owners and said, we will give you a grant, each one of you a grant, if you will help fix up your outside building and make it look nice, make it look presentable. And so the business owners did it. And the city and the county and the state all helped out. That's what we're looking for here. Can we get something where you guys will step up to and say, we're willing to help as well, if the business owners will help, participate. We put planters downtown. That didn't work out, but nobody wanted to water the plants. We were literally carrying 5-gallon jugs, buckets up and down. My employees, myself, Liz, McDonald, we were all watering the plants, but you just can't do it every day. And we could not get anybody to help us out. Same thing with the water. The water line got cut, so the trees got taken out. There's no reason why we can't have our city looking nice, but it needs to come from a higher level as well. So I guess that's what we're looking for, is some financial backing.
I don't disagree with you. And I think it's important that we have a specific proposal in front of us that we could actually work on. And obviously the numbers are pretty tight for us as well, but this is all priorities, setting priorities. So I think from, as long as we're just talking about, brainstorming here and whatnot, I would hope that, you could maybe start with Dave in terms of what you're thinking of best case, worst case scenario from both the city and us. And so we can sit down. I know the city, when they proposed the 95 I-80 interchange right down here where all of us came together and actually put the walls in and that clean that corner up. That was a joint project between us, and it was a very specific proposal that we worked on. But that sounds to me like that's something we need to do.
Right.
And I agree. I think those communities are able to come together and clean up some of those businesses that, seem to go into disrepair, because it only takes one before the neighborhood starts to fall apart. And,
right.
And I think that's important that we have that conversation too.
Well, and too, with the old Sage Theater.
Yeah.
That thing, there's no reason why we couldn't turn that into something really nice. It doesn't have to be a new building, because I know the cost of building a new structure and doing something like that would be astronomical right now. But I do think that we could turn it into maybe an open amphitheater, clean it up, put some dirt in there, and I think we could get some local donations, or maybe Honeywell or somewhere that would come and help do the work too, just to get it looking nice. So that's something. So what you need from us is a written proposal of exactly what we're looking to do, how much money we're looking for.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I need just something that looks like a grant proposal, something as specific, but certainly at this stage, it would be good to see what direction you're headed and where you see the commission and the county and the city, falling into that. What is our role within that based on what your 30,000 foot view looks like,
Now, did the county receive money for the COVID, like the city did?
Yeah,
for tourism and all that? Is there any funding available through that, or do you guys already have that budgeted out?
It's already been targeted.
Has it?
Yeah, and it was very specific with regard to.
We chose at the county level to work more with the rurals because the city got 3 times as much money. And
right.
They could work within the city. And I agree, and I've been in business downtown for many years, but I almost think that this is something that needs to come back to the county from the city. If they chose to work with you, it should be something that the city would be on board with to get the county involved.
Right.
And then on a negative aspect of it, I look at it and I agree with that Ben's Discount Liquor building. It really needs help. Is that a owner of the building, or is that a?
Well, we can't seem to get a direct answer. The gentleman that is there, we've been told that it's owned by some family down in Reno. We actually, when it was the group of women that we did the Downtown Business Association, we had offered to go in and paint and fix it up. And at first they had told us no. And then they told us yes. And then when we went and said, we'll pay for the paint and we'll do it. For whatever reason, the gentleman came back and said, you know what, we're going to wait, which I don't know why you would wait. Here we're offering it to do it at the time when we had the money. We offered to do it for free.
7 years.
It was.
I was
and,
on the
right.
committee with the city council.
Right. And so now it's the same thing. They just keep giving everybody the runaround. I believe it was the city that served them with, not a nuisance, but you know, some sort of order saying that it was
Safety
a
issue.
safety issue with
Because
the
of the
awning.
awning.
Yeah.
Out there.
But then that was 6 months ago and still nothing's been done. I'm surprised the snow load that we've had last couple of times hasn't, and it's going to happen. It happened in Battle Mountain. It's going to happen here. Someone's going to get hit with it, or it's going to come down and hurt somebody, or, you know, it's dangerous. So I don't know why it's not been taken care of. But
Right in front of, remember, right in front of CB Brown's over there, when Laura was there, and that whole thing
came down.
came down.
Well, and that was part of my thinking when I looked.
Commissioner,
at down.
could you speak in that?
When I look at
Thank you.
the downtown area there and I look at what the owners of the CB Brown property and Mr. Grijo, what they've done in painting
Right.
with theirs, and then, you know, you look for grant money or get help to do something for somebody else's building that doesn't show any desire or interest to help theirs. And I get it, that what Commissioner French just stated, that, you know, one falls and the others start to fall around it. But I do think this needs to come from your committee and the city council to the county. That I don't think it should be the county's effort to initiate that.
No, and I don't either. That's not what I'm asking for. That's not what we're saying. We're just looking to see if we come in here, which it sounds like we do with what Mr. French said, is that we have some support, because this has to be a group effort. The city is part of the county, you know? So I feel like it should come from all aspects, not just one group, not just one side. It should be everybody wanting to be involved in fixing up our downtown, our town period, all of it. And our downtown is starting to look poor again. And so it's something that needs to happen.
You know, we have a history that goes back as long as I've been on this commission, long before that even, where we've had a cost share agreement with the city and the county. And we are the only county in Nevada that has a cost share agreement with their a major city. And that's, I think it's to the credit of a lot of folks, not just us, but a lot of the credit to other people before us to work in concert with one another and share budgets and people and equipment and that type of thing. And guess why I'm saying that is that there isn't anybody on this board right now that doesn't feel that way right now. And so I think we're in a perfect place to initiate a cooperating agreement and a group of folks that, you know, understands what we all get from that, you know,
Right.
from a quality of life perspective and from, you know, attracting the tourist dollar and whatnot. It's important to all of us. I don't care if you're county or city.
Right, exactly.
What it is.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Good. This Commissioner Hill, I would be in support of that. I very much would support that. Anything monetary wise, we're going to need a pretty good plan from you guys before we start doling out tax money. But if it makes sense to us, you know, I would be in support of that. I would also be in support of, you know, looking long-term, getting on a committee or getting something together to help this from happening in the future, you know, whether it's ordinances or holding businesses accountable to a certain standard. You know, I don't want to govern every business to death, but at some point you got to have some sort of standard that, you know, the city of Winnemucca or Humboldt County expects if you're going to operate downtown. Something along those lines I would be in support of too.
Well, Commissioner Harrell, every third Tuesday of the month, you can come to our meeting. You want to join in? You're all more than welcome.
We do have a city representative on the board. If the county wants to have one, they're
It would
welcome.
be nice to have.
Yeah.
Again, just so you guys know, I mean, you would have my support for
Well, I know you've
short-term
supported
and
us in the past with the DBA. I know you guys have helped us and you've donated money to us to projects and things like that. But we just wanted to kind of bring you up to date what we're doing and what we're thinking. And we will get together a solid proposal of where we're at. We're going to a meeting tomorrow with the city council. They're going to let us know what they're doing. And then we'll put together something to show what we're wanting to really come up with
And then we'll be going to the WCVA too.
as well.
Okay.
I was going to recommend. WCVA, you know, there was a whole potload of different pots of money that came out during COVID. Some of it went directly to the state, some came to the counties. There was a couple of billion or something like that that went to the state, which WCVA has applied for. I think it was 20 million to renovate the East Hall, which needs it too. That would do a whole lot to dress that place up a little bit too. And we're still in the process of that. We got to go. We've done what we've had to do to apply for that money on WCVA. I think it would. You guys are smart people, but WCVA is another group that you could work with. I don't know about our Humboldt Development Authority. Jen and them, if they might have some ideas.
We've talked with Jan too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've kind of covered all the bases.
We've got grant writers. I guess our grant writer could look for opportunities. There's resources that may not be directly a check to you, but resources we have that could help you, and we're certainly willing to do that. I know I look around when I go different towns. I can remember Caldwell, Idaho used to be a rundown little thing, and you go up there now and
Pretty nice.
new yuppie joints all over the place.
Yeah. Same with Nampa. They're fixing it
Nampa
Nampa.
too. So I think we can do it. It's just, you got to have the business owners behind you to do it too.
I think there's a lot of support from many business owners. Jane Studebaker was going to go and talk to all of them and kind of get a feel, have them fill out a little form to see what they'd like to see happen. And that's kind of what we're waiting on too, so we could bring it back to everybody and show everybody like this is, kind of the word. I think there's some who have been there a long time and they just don't really care anymore. It's not, and maybe not that they just don't care, they're just kind of, settled in their ways and the way things are, and they're just good with it. But I think that when people come to town, you want them to, think Winnemucca is a charming little place, and it draws more people in, more events, more people want to come here because they enjoy it. So it's a win for everybody, really.
I agree.
Is there any opportunity with the state, since Main Street is a state highway, to approach the state to maybe to be?
Well, they have a Main Street project through the state, but their budget after COVID just got completely cut in half. In fact, Patty Herzog, who was involved in that, her position actually got cut, right?
Well, no, they replaced her.
Oh,
The budget for Main Street was cut in half.
Yeah, and which was too bad because Patty was very gung ho and really helped a lot of communities out and did some beautiful work in Gardnerville and in, was it Urington? Yeah, they've done some amazing things there. Elko did a bunch of stuff. So I just feel like and now unfortunately it's been cut back, but it doesn't mean that there isn't funding in other places like Mr. Sherry said. So, but thank you for your time. We appreciate
So
it.
you haven't been to the city council?
We're going tomorrow. We're on the council tomorrow.
They received a whole lot more money than we did on it. So you might ask them, because a few months back, we opened it up to the public and said, is there anything out there that you guys would like to see? But we were held to certain restrictions as what we could use that money for.
Right.
And so you might bring that up with them and see.
And we
Problem-
have.
Problem is that the sidewalks are probably the responsibility of the owner and the city or the county, wherever these are. So you got to get those together. Then you've got to be able to put together a big enough crew of businesses that really are interested in this.
Right.
And, it's been tried, it's been worked with, it's been, and the businesses come and go, and it's hard.
Right.
As you well know. I mean, but you might hit the city up a little harder with, see if there is anything available.
Right.
Because I think there was some stuff in there that you might get.
No, yeah, we've been in contact with them. And so now we're on the board meeting tomorrow. We weren't able to get on the last couple ones, but we're on for tomorrow. So we're going to discuss it with them. But they have talked about that they want to take some of that COVID money and redo all the lighting, fix the sidewalks. So that's a positive aspect of it. That's our
Another
plan.
thing this Commissioner Hill, is reach out to Battle Mountain. They're doing a huge sidewalk project in almost every sidewalk in town over the next 3 years, I think. So it might be a good resource to see what exactly they did. The money structure is a little different, but maybe there's something there too.
True. Well, thank you. We appreciate your time.
And just wearing another hat with Rick and Jerry out at the radio shop, when we need help with search and rescue, they're really good. We get things done.
Yeah, it's good. Yep.
Thank
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming by.
Thanks.
Okay, we're at item 19, which is miscellaneous reports and correspondence. With meetings, identification, March 8th, Winnemucca City Council, March 10th, Regional Planning Commission, March 14th, Regional Airport Board, March 21st, Humboldt County Commission meeting. And then the items 2 under this is reports from commissioners. And I'll start with Commissioner Hill.
I don't have anything new to report, actually.
Okay.
Nothing.
Commissioner Haas?
I don't have anything between our last meeting and today. I do have museum board meeting tomorrow, and then the airport board is on the 14th.
Okay. Commissioner?
I had a hospital board meeting, and I say there that we're continuing to work on our billing department and to resolve the issues there. We're making headway, but it's still going to be a while before we get it all taken care of. It's been a big job. I got a letter, there was a piece in our box too. I got a letter from the Department of Interior on the Soldier Meadows ACEC, and I don't know if the county's going to want to comment on that or not. It's concerns a reroute of the Soldier Meadows area around their park. And I have the map of that if anybody wants to look at it. And I had collective bargaining meetings with the general employees group and with the law enforcement group, and we're just getting started in that. We're recognizing that inflation numbers are high, that we've let them know that all of our costs are going to be high, that everything that the county does is going to go up drastically this next year. And I have a meeting with Humboldt River Water on, was it Friday?
I think it's Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had really only one telephone call with, and Dave was on it with me, with NDEP in regards to the short-term holding facility they're proposing for the wild horses out in Paradise Valley. It's still a concern to me and to some of the residents around there that they're moving forward with this in light of the fact that that's a floodplain down there. That I did get a call from Steve Lucas, who used to own that. I've been asking him for pictures of the flooding that he experienced when he lived there, and he couldn't find them. Well, his father passed away, and he was down cleaning his house, and he found a whole album full of pictures. I just haven't gotten them from him yet of the flooding. So anyway, during this call, we brought that up to NDEP, as well as Dave had talked to Steve Del Sodato about the records he has of when it shows that it's flooded down there. And really, if you look at his records, since right around 1900, it has flooded about every 6-7 years on average. And so told them that, they weren't aware of that. And they did seem to be very receptive of everything we were telling them. And a lot of the stuff that we were telling them they hadn't heard before. In other words, BLM didn't do their part as far as the EA or EIS or whatever I think it was an EA that they did to permit this. So I think they'll look into that, follow through with some of what we're talking about or we brought up, Because I really do think, it's not about whether I think that they should be holding these horses in a holding facility or not. It's past that point. But we really don't need a real ecological disaster to happen because they put it in the wrong place. If you're going to do that, put it in the right places. And this experience and history, you know, when I lived there, I know what it can happen there, and it will. You know, we told them, the BLM people that authorize this don't have a history. I mean, most of your BLM people are here for 1 or 2 years and they're gone. They don't know what happens around here, and we've had these droughts, and people have forgotten. You know, the people that are in that office have never seen a flood, a lot of them in this area before. And so it probably never came across their mind that that could happen there. I'm sure it didn't, or they wouldn't have moved forward with it. So it was a good telephone call. We'll see. I'm gonna get those pictures and get them sent to them, and Dave sent him the record from Steve Del Sodato, and that's all helpful. So we'll see. I was told that they've already started building pins there.
I was told that.
Yeah. That Steve told me there's a number of welders staying there in the park there in Paradise that are going out there every day and building these pins out of pipe, I guess.
Maybe they'll have flotation systems in the floor of those pens.
Yeah,
There you go.
they better. I just don't know what you do with 4,000 or 5,000 horses if it floods. What, you turn them loose?
And on
It'd
who?
be an ecological disaster. You're right. They would have to get them loose, and yeah, you got 5,000 horses there at one time. And then the other side of it is that, you know, the surface flow off that during any high flow is going to take all that nitrogen, phosphorus, and all that other stuff that, you know, that's generated in those conditions and whatnot. It's going to put it right in the Humboldt River. And I know if it was you and you tried to propose the same kind of an operation for cows, and you had the same kind of concerns sitting down on that floodplain, BLM would be all over us on that. And they short-tracked this thing. The truth is, they short-tracked it. They gave us 15 days on that initial contact. They actually had Alan Shepard has actually contacted me twice, wanted my permission to. I thought it was going to be fine, and he has. You know, it basically said to me that was nothing in the public record out there indicating any of my concerns or any of your concerns or Steve Lucas's concerns, and therefore it didn't exist. And I told him, I said, you didn't look very hard. Bottom line is, I said, Division of Water Resources, did you call up? Did you call Department of Wildlife or the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service? They've been making reports there for years on that bottom line. So, and they're still talking that though. I guess that's the part that bothers me about it, is that their case they made before they bought that, they funded that purchase was that there was no record that there was any issues there. So
Well, I think it's going to be real difficult. Now somebody's going to have to go, whoops, we made a big mistake. That's going to be a hard one for somebody.
that's one Alan Shepard's going to have a hard one to swallow, and he knows it. So
Maybe a retired before, huh?
yeah, I think you might be right, because that was his project, and he, you know, what, assistant director? No, he came out of the wild horse program.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He was running it.
Yeah.
But at the very least, if it just doesn't stop it, we need to be on record and say, when it happens, we told you so.
Mm-hmm.
And then that will give the property owners around it, property owners that suffer from this, the opportunity to make it right.
Yeah, you're right. It gives them standing, gives everybody. So, yeah. Anything else, Don?
That's it.
Okay. All I had for you guys.
One more thing. There is a workshop tomorrow. I guess they call it a workshop. State water engineer at, I think it's at the extension office.
Yeah.
On the modeling that's going on in the Humboldt River. I guess they're going to tell us where that is right now. So if you want to go, I think it starts at 2:00.
I'm going to try to go to that.
And all I was going to say is I passed this out. It pretty much says it in a nutshell what I went, the presentation I got from Sandra Rosenberg, from Assistant Director from NDOT, and of course they've got what they're calling a Nevada Sustainable Transportation Funding Study. But this sums it up, and when they get down to where the rubber meets the road, when you start talking about all the, they're talking about the shortage in funding versus the increase in miles versus the increase in costs of maintenance and repair. And I don't think anybody will deny that. I mean, we all struggle with that too. I think everybody recognizes that there's going to have to be some sort of shift in collecting taxes to support the ongoing construction, repair, and maintenance of roads. But where the rubber meets the road is in the options, and that's the reason I wanted to just give you guys a copy of this to chew on it. There's some stuff in there that I thought made sense and was reasonable, and there was some stuff in there that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. So in terms of funding sources. So at any rate, I give it to you because I thought maybe it would be, this is something you probably want to think about for a while, because this is going to be in front of this. They're going to make recommendations coming from this study for a bill draft request that's going to go to the Nevada legislature in 23. And it's going to require, if we have any input, specific input regarding anything that's in this, regarding any of it, it's going to be on us to be down there at the legislature to actually testify to that subcommittee. And it will also give us an opportunity through our NACO representative in 23 to get the formal lobbying from NACO one way or the other on it. So at any rate, that's, and the only other thing I have is I've got an IAF meeting on the 14th and in Carson City. So I'll let you know that it's kind of ongoing. We're not changing anything with regard to the funding. We're getting back to the county out of the IAF fund. So I'll be attending that, and I'll report on how that came out when I get through with it. That's all I had.
First report, they need to tell us what did they do with money that we gave them already?
Well, that's probably a pretty decent question to ask them, especially in front of the legislative subcommittee. But at any rate, at this stage, I think we're down to future agenda items.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dave Mendiola. So from today's meeting, we will bring back APN 04.0404.02, which is the first property we talked about with Mr. Casanelli. And we'll do a little more research on that one. Give us a little time since it's not going to be on the auction list, and see if we can in fact track down whether or not that is a county property. Everything we had checked into in the past says it was never transacted, as Rona mentioned. So we just would need to do that if that's the will of the commission. Also, continuation of the public hearing for Sakurada. So we set a date, April 18th, 10 a.m. to come back to make sure that demolition has occurred. And so we'll be watching that. And then also Commissioner Hill mentioned consideration of some kind of a discussion of the county properties that we do hold currently, that we actually own, which I've got a set of probably, I think 10 that we tried to auction off in the past, but the price that came back on the appraisal was way too high. Nobody would even touch it in the auction. There is some specific statute, NRS statute, that allows us to, I think, adjust that pricing so that it can sell, but that was something we did 3 or 4 years ago. So we'd have to go back out and get the appraisals and start over again. for those sites. And then the last thing I've got is just for the potential Main Street Committee, a request for some kind of financial assistance. So we'll just wait and see what they do with the city, and maybe I'll have a specific request. That's one of the things I did ask them prior to coming, if they had a specific request for some amount of money or for some type of project, and they did not. So we just left it as a sort of an FYI for the board. And I think we got that today. So, and that's what I have today.
You know, to Commissioner Hill's thought on those properties, maybe a person should reach out to the existing property owners that are next to those to see if there was an interest in them taking that if we went through the process to get it into county ground, and then we could make a deal with them to take that over, just to clean all that stuff up. If they have no interest in it, then you just end up with the same problem.
Yeah.
It sits there on the trustee list, but if there's a sliver or a piece right next to it that would make sense to them, they're not going to pay all the back taxes on it.
Right.
But they'd be interested in it.
Right.
It might work.
Mr. Chairman, can I have a bit of clarification for purposes of the minutes? What I understood Commissioner Hill's comments earlier were specifically the properties that were on the treasurer's tax auction that were not selling because of their location and that sort of thing. But what I'm understanding Manager Mendiola to be referring to is actually county-owned properties. Are they the same thing or two different things?
My comment was to the stuff that's on the tax rolls that just doesn't make sense.
Like in
to
Golconda.
sell. Yeah, and there's some down on Second Street and.
Right, and I
Just
think
some-
all I wanted to add to that was that maybe we could put both of them together at some point in time, because we have quite a few of the ones that we have that we actually own are in Golconda as well.
Yeah.
So, and there, I think there is one that's on the auction that is near, it's not next to a property we already own. So again, it's the same situation. It's a sliver of property that really, I don't think serves anybody any good, but that's why we can't get rid of it, so. But I think it's worth looking at anyway.
Okay.
One other thing I want to bring up, Dave, I don't know, do we have our plan? Do we have our plan together as far as crickets goes? They're showing up already in big numbers.
So a couple things on that front. The state, APHIS is lobbying the Congress for more money. As you know, this is the last year of funding that they will have for that. It started back in 2004. They put money aside for that. They've got just enough to get through this year. So that's underway. They will be doing their normal counts. So if you have information like that you can give to me, we'll pass it on to those folks. And so there's that. I have already talked to Jeff Shrimp about continuing his project as we see them. I probably need to, reconvene with him because we don't really have a specific plan. In the past, it's always been, we get a few phone calls, or a lot of times he gets calls directly from people in whatever area it's at. And he'll go out and do it on that. And I've told him that, if it's private land and or county land, let us know and we can do it through this project so we can coordinate better with the ones. For example, he did a couple of projects last year, I think right up in the Orvada area. And they were adjacent to some areas that we probably should have done at the same time. So it'd have been good to know that so that we could have him maybe make a larger line of defense at the time when he's up there, so we don't have 2 or 3 mobilizations. So, but other than that, yeah, the state will do their plan. I'm told that they started earlier this year on their EA and that they'll have that information in plenty of time because that was one of our big requests, if you recall, is to start that process in October so that they can get approval to do their aerial spraying. And so I'm told they did that this year. We'll see.
I think, and I don't know, but the state is the only one that really has an MOU with BLM and them as far as treating on federal land.
Well, we actually do as well.
Do you use well?
Yeah, city and county, we got that 3 years ago when we first started this.
Okay.
And that's a 5-year agreement, so we're still under that agreement.
Because that's where, you know, in the outlying areas, that's where the majority of these pests come from, because the private landowner does something about theirs and feds don't. You know, where I'm hearing it now is coming off of federal land. Someone said the other day they went up on the hill and there was zillions of them about the size of a pencil, you know, moving on the hill.
Yeah.
So if it's this early, seems like it's a little early to be at. If they're showing up already, then the crickets are not only the crickets are gonna be bad, you're gonna have grasshoppers, and it could be, along with the drought, pretty hard on ranges and stuff, so.
I got pictures sent to me a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago now, with the pictures of the Mormon crickets already.
In town?
No, they were up in the hills. And haven't had a chance to follow up with them exactly where they are, but I will. So at least we'll get some locations on these things, and I appreciate you bringing it up because they're here.
So if we get that information, the cricket somewhere and with pictures and a location, did we send that to the office so you can send a location in that?
We can do it any of 2 ways. I would prefer it to come to our office just so that we can keep track of where it's at. And then when we talk with Jeff Knight and his team, they're out doing, surveys on some regular basis. And so that we can compare notes. And that way, if they're going to be working a certain area, especially for ground baiting, then heck, why wouldn't we add a certain area to that? It just makes a lot of sense to do that. Because right now, one of the big things is Jeff just gets calls from farmers, ranchers. He'll go out and do work for them, which is fine. It's just that it'd be nice to know where he's working, because we might be able to add another line that's maybe another 500-800 yards long or something that could really help, especially if they're out there. It's pretty obvious. But obviously, we can't expect to have that rancher or farmer, he's going to protect his area, but it'd be nice if we could, we've got the BLM agreement, we can add additional areas.
See, one of the things we ran into last year, at least in my area, was that if Jeff baited and the state didn't know where Jeff baited, but they knew he baited somewhere there, they won't do it a second time.
Won't do it again, yeah.
So timing is everything, and record of where you did it, because if they even, they're not certain, they won't do it again, that it hasn't been treated already.
Well, and that should be through Jeff, that he should be keeping very detailed records of where he's putting it down. I mean, that's a requirement of his license, but.
I don't know if they talk to Jeff all the time.
Yeah.
I think they do.
They do, but somehow I think there's a mix up there sometimes, so we don't really take advantage of it, I guess.
Since we're on agenda items, there seems to be a delay with agreement with the hospital to get after it, to get something with the detention center so that we can go back to the county nurse and all the rest of it. Would that be something that we'd want to put on the agenda for next go around? Look into that and find out what the delays are and see what we can do. And I'd like to see Stringham, the new contract you have with him, the old contract, Maher's contract, make sure that we update all those things and see what we're going to do with them, especially with COVID kind of taking a downturn.
Yeah.
But the one with the hospital is costing us a lot of money. I get it, granted, it's not out of one of our pockets, but it's still, getting paid for. And what was it, $4,000 or $5,000 in this run was paid for the inmates being taken from the detention center to the hospital. So
you're talking about the billing rate
for our service, the services coming out of our hospital? Or
Well, they had a contract with them.
Yeah.
And they were, the hospital was good enough to sign a contract so that they could oversee what was going on at the detention center. That got canceled because of, they thought there was no insurance on that. That's been rectified, that there is insurance on it and stuff. And they came before us to ask if we could find a doctor. The hospital didn't, but we decided to get a contract with Stringham to oversee this. And in the meantime, not only are we paying for that contract, but we're also paying several $1,000s for taking the inmates over there. So I really think that we need to push a little harder on this and see if we can't get it rectified and get our costs back down again.
I know that Robin has been in contact with them, and I think it's through Dave, she's been in contact with you as well on that, hasn't she?
I have not spoken to her. This is something she's kind of worked directly with the sheriff's office on, and I have not had any hand in this.
I don't know.
May I be heard on this issue? Okay, I will let you know that maybe a week ago, Kent Maher did reach out to me in regards to a different issue, but he said that he had the contract, that he'd reviewed it. There was some insurance provision that maybe needed to be added in there. So I'll just send him an email and CC Dave on it and see if I can get a copy of the contract to review so we can get it before our board.
Contract that you're referring to, and I think Mr. Haas is talking about is the contract for services rendered in our jail.
Yes,
correct?
for HGH to supervise.
Right, and then of course, we had Stringham as the oversight as per the license for the nurse practitioner or the RN that was actually doing the forming. Right?
Temporarily until HGH can.
I think the other thing,
Hey, Jim.
that I wondered about,
You were speaking.
we talked about before, had to do with the rate that we pay as a county for inmates that are taken to the hospital. When somebody has a heart attack, ends up in our hospital emergency room, did we pay full pop for those services? And when I was on the hospital board, and I think you and I talked about it when you first got on there, was my contention with their CEO is that the taxpayers put a lot of money into that hospital without any services being rendered. I mean, through through ad valorem as well as through net proceeds. There's a lot of money goes to that hospital. And as such, I felt that it was important that the hospital render that we received a rate that reflected that. And I think at one time we had a rate, and I just was wondering if that's still, or if that's gone back to we're paying full blown price, because at one time when Parrish was there, we were paying horrific prices for services that were coming to that hospital out of jail. And I'm hoping that didn't kind of go back the way it was.
One point, right after I became commissioner, Dave was new too, and we met with Parrish. That was when Parrish was there.
Yeah.
And we did get them to adjust those rates. But I don't know what's happened. That's been quite a while ago.
That's kind of what I was wondering.
Long time ago. Yeah, I'd need to follow up with her on that.
Maybe just an overview of the contracts to see what's going on there, because nothing's changed with regard to that.
Well, when Wendy brought this up, it is their attorney that hasn't done anything with it. And now it sounds like he's willing to put forth the effort, and have the paperwork done.
Yeah.
But it's just, we need to push it.
I don't disagree.
We need to agendize it and ask Mr. Maher to be here, or, find out what we can do about it, or it's going to go on and on and on. Now he said we're doing a little bit of money into the hospital, $297,334.93 was on the settlements. So yeah, there's a little bit of money, and that was just for February settlement. So,
yeah, and that's just that's for services provided, right? Under that settlement.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think the settlements are, and you correct me if I'm wrong, my thoughts on it are just the settlements that come from the taxes.
You're right,
you know,
it's
since
pass
on-
through.
on
Yeah,
pass-through,
the pass-through.
pass-through.
Right,
Okay.
But yeah, we do put a little bit of money in there,
indeed.
you know.
Okay. Anything else? Anything else, Commissioner?
Just for public comment.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to next. So, okay, public comment. Any additional public comment?
I got word on Saturday that there's a piece of ground behind the museum that was tentatively set aside for the museum expansion. And HDA has an agenda item, I believe, tomorrow, trying to get that piece of property. So I would like to see that stay with us, the museum, for expansion. And they have some plans, but nothing is drawing yet and engineered or anything yet. But since it was up there, I'd like to see it stay there, you know, so that the museum will have some area to expand. So I just want to bring that forth to the county commissioners so that they'll know. And I believe that there's a agenda item on the city council tomorrow with the HDA trying to get, you know, that. And so anyway, just to make you aware of it.
That's a piece of property they were looking at somewhat for apartments.
Yes.
Same thing that was going on down where you before. So what's the position on the museum board? You know, on
That we want to keep,
They want to hang on?
well, we'd like to make it a little more concrete, that is set aside, you know, for an expansion. Thoughts on the city council was, well, you know, if we can sell it, well, blah, blah, blah. So we'll see what happens, you know, from that agenda item tomorrow. But I think that the county needs to get involved in it also, simply because it's for all of us. And this last year, if I've got the numbers correct, there was over 4,000 people came from locals plus the outside that came to the museum here. And that's something that people are doing more and more and more of, and especially this last year where they couldn't fly, they couldn't go on a cruise, they couldn't go, you know, out of the country, so that they got on the road. And that's why our taxes, our room taxes are so high. They've been doing this all year. And she's got records of it up there, Dana does, that how many people and where from. And we've had an awful lot of people to come into that museum.
So we're talking about that lot that butts right up against the back wall there on the west wall, right?
You know, I'm not really specific on, I don't know, and I can find out for you. I'll be at the museum tomorrow for a meeting, and I'll get prints and stuff on it, make sure where it's at.
Yeah, because that was exactly what they leveled that out, and that was, the thought in mind was initially that was going to be where they expanded that building.
Yes.
Across there.
So I will get more specifics on, like I said, it was Saturday, and I called her at home. And she was good enough to call me back, but it needs to be, we need to be aware of it so that, you know, we can help keep that there.
Yeah. Okay. Any additional public comment? Not seeing any additional public comment. This meeting's adjourned.
You see what time it is? Oh, you're